500 years ago, England was emerging into a new era. After years of war, plague and famine, the kingdom was finding peace under the first Tudor king, Henry VIII. A new class of hard-working tenant farmers was rising, feeding the nation while their sheep produced wool worth half of England's wealth. Here's what life was really like for the average Tudor peasant. So, yeah, if these stories work for you, subscribe. And I'm curious, what time is it where you are? Comment below. Got comments from Seattle to Stockholm last time. The time zone thing never stops being weird to me. All right, let's head back to Tudor England, 1500. Trust me, it's going to be quite a ride. But first, get comfortable. Seriously, adjust those pillows. Pull up that blanket. Because where we're going, you're going to want to be cozy. The darkness presses around you like a shroud. It's not the darkness of a modern bedroom with streetlights leaking through curtains. This is proper, complete darkness, the kind that swallows you whole. Your eyes snap open before dawn, not because you want to, because you have to. The monastery bells haven't even rung yet, but your body knows. 5 hours of sleep is all you get in winter, 6 if you're lucky in summer. Your back aches from the lumpy straw mattress beneath you. Nothing like the memory foam cradling you right now. You're Will Fletcher, tenant farmer to Merton Abbey, and you're already behind on the day's work. Mary, Mother of God, you mutter, feeling for the flint beside your bed. Give me strength. The air bites at your exposed face, the only part of you not buried under layers of wool blankets and the warm body of your wife Eliza. You can hear her breathing beside you, along with the soft snores of your children on their truckle bed pulled out from under yours. Eliza, you whisper, shaking her shoulder gently. It's time. She groans, but stirs. 26 years old and already her hands are gnarled from work, her once smooth face weathered from sun and wind. She's buried 3 babies and birthed 2 living ones. In your world, that's considered lucky. I'll get the fire, she mumbles, her breath visible in the frigid air. The floor beneath your bare feet might as well be ice. No slippers waiting beside your bed, no thermostat to adjust, just bitter cold seeping through the floorboards. Let me, you offer. The cows won't wait. In the main room below, yesterday's embers glow faintly beneath the ash. You kneel down, joints creaking, and take your flint and steel. 3 strikes, and you finally get a spark to catch on the charred cloth you keep as tinder. There, you whisper, as if afraid to startle the tiny flame. You feed it carefully with splinters of wood, then small sticks. No rushing this process. Lose the fire now, and the whole day turns harder. The flame casts weird dancing shadows around the room. Not much to see. A table, some stools, a few wooden bowls on a shelf, everything built by hand, everything essential. No decorations, no excess, just survival. Speaking of survival, your stomach growls. You've been fasting since yesterday's afternoon meal. 14 hours without food, but before you eat, there's work to be done. Father in heaven, bless this day and the work of our hands, you pray automatically, crossing yourself. The fire catches properly now, and you can see steam rising from your mouth with each word. You don't have a chimney. That would waste precious heat. Instead, smoke fills the upper part of the room before finding its way out through a hole in the thatch. Your eyes sting, but you're used to it. The smoke keeps the bugs out of the thatch anyway. Everything has a purpose. Will, the water bucket's frozen again. Eliza's voice comes from the corner where a wooden bucket sits with a solid sheet of ice on top. Shit, you mutter. Then quickly, sorry, Lord. Even your thoughts aren't private in Tudor England. God hears all, sees all, and the parish priest makes sure you never forget it. You grab a stick and break through the ice. The chickens need water, the cow needs water, the pig needs water, the family needs water. Just getting enough of it will take an hour of your morning. Before you can even think about that, you need to get dressed. Your linen shirt from yesterday doesn't smell great, but it'll have to do. Over it goes your wool tunic, then the heavy leather jerkin that keeps the worst of the wind out. Wool hose on your legs tied with string to your undergarments. No elastic here. Leather shoes that never quite dry out completely. They're stiff with frost this morning. The pigs are squealing, Eliza says, now up and moving around the room with practiced efficiency. They can smell snow coming. Can't be, you say, looking toward the single small window. Just a hole with a wooden shutter, no glass. We need at least another month without snow, or we'll lose half the livestock. Tell that to the sky, she replies, nodding toward the window. You push open the shutter, and sure enough, heavy grey clouds hang low over the distant hills. Mary's mercy, you breathe. If snow comes early, your carefully measured grain stores won't last. You've seen what happens to families who run out of food before spring. Sometimes they just disappear. Other times they're found when the thaw comes, huddled together in their beds. Oh, wait, someone's at the door. John, your farmhand, really just a boy of 14, but strong as an ox and cheaper to feed. Master Fletcher, he says, stamping his feet against the cold, the brown cow's not looking right, something in her eye. And so it begins, the daily battle against a world that seems determined to take everything from you. Disease, weather, accident, the greedy tax collector, the monastery demanding their share, all of it waiting to strike. Let me see, you say, pulling on your cap. No time for breakfast yet. Outside, the pre-dawn world is silent except for the animals. Your breath hangs in clouds before your face as you cross the muddy yard to the cowshed. The smell hits you first. Warm animal, manure, hay, all mingling together in a not entirely unpleasant funk that means life and food and survival. John's right. The cow's eye is weeping something yellowish. If she dies, that's a quarter of your yearly income gone in an instant. But Tudor farmers don't have vets. They have generations of passed down knowledge and a healthy dose of prayer. Eliza, you call back toward the house, bring the yarrow poultice. While waiting, you run your hands over the cow's hide, feeling for other signs of illness. She's your most valuable possession, worth more than everything inside your house combined. Is she fevered? Eliza asks, bringing a small clay pot of greenish paste that smells sharply of herbs. Don't think so, you reply, placing your cheek against the cow's neck. Still eating too. "Oh, St. Brigid, protect her," Eliza murmurs, making the sign of the cross over the animal before applying the poultice. St. Brigid, patron saint of dairymaids and cattle, just one of dozens of saints you invoke daily for everything from toothaches to good weather. The monastery bells finally ring in the distance, marking the hour of prime. The first official hour of prayer, though you've already been up for what feels like ages. The sound carries across the frost-covered fields, a reminder that everything, even time itself, belongs to God and his earthly representatives. "I need to milk her anyway," Eliza says. "Then start the bread." You nod. "I'll check the sheep before I eat." Neither of you says what you're thinking. If the sheep aren't healthy, you can't pay your rent to the monastery. If you can't pay the rent, you lose everything. By the time you reach the sheep pen, grey light is finally seeping into the world. Your flock isn't large, 30 animals, but their wool is what keeps you afloat. England runs on wool. Ships carry it to Flanders and Italy, where it becomes fine cloth that returns at prices you couldn't afford in 10 lifetimes. The sheep huddle together against the cold, their breath creating a cloud of steam above them. You count automatically, 29. "Bloody hell," you mutter, then quickly, "Forgive me, Lord." One missing sheep might not sound like much, but it's the difference between making rent and not. Between eating and starving. between keeping your tenancy and joining the growing ranks of landless labourers who wander from village to village, begging for work. "John, you call?" and the boy appears instantly. One's missing, the pregnant ewe with the notch in her ear. His face falls. He was supposed to count them at dusk. "I swear they were all here at locking time, Master Fletcher. You don't have time to scold him." "Get Tom and search the north field. I'll check the woods." As you hurry across the frozen ground, your empty stomach protests. Still no breakfast, and now it might be hours before you eat. But hunger is a familiar companion in Tudor England. You've never known what it's like to be properly full, not fat, just satisfied for more than a few weeks after harvest. The woods are silent and forbidding in the half-light. If wolves took your sheep, there'll be nothing left but wool tufts and blood on the snow. If human thieves took her, she's already slaughtered and hidden away in some desperate family's larder. But there, a movement between the trees. You freeze, straining your eyes. "Thank the saints," you breathe. The missing ewe is tangled in a bramble patch, bleating pathetically. As you approach, you see she's unharmed but thoroughly stuck. Her wool, your livelihood, is snagged in dozens of places. "Easy, girl," you murmur, drawing your knife to cut her free. The blade is dull. Metal tools are expensive and precious. You make a mental note to take it to the blacksmith in the village, though that's another expense you can ill afford. By the time you lead the sheep back to the pen, the sun is properly up, revealing your world in all its muddy, hard-scrabble glory. Your farm is small by modern standards, just 5 acres of enclosed fields that you rent from the monastery, plus grazing rights on the common land. The farmhouse is timber-framed with wattle and daub walls, basically woven sticks plastered with a mixture of clay, dung and straw. The roof is thatched, needing replacement soon. There's your vegetable garden, the pigsty, the chicken coop and the cowshed. It's not much, but it's more than most people have. You're not a peasant, not really. You're a yeoman farmer, the emerging middle class of Tudor England. You can read a little, do basic sums, and if the harvests are good for a few years running, you might even save enough to buy some land of your own one day. John and Tom return from their search, relief washing over their faces when they see the recovered ewe. "She's back then," Tom says, an older man missing most of his teeth. "He's been with your family since your father's time. Good thing too. Abbot wouldn't take kindly to a short count this year." You nod grimly. The monastery owns this land, and their agent will be around after shearing time to collect their due, a quarter of your wool plus coin for rent. "Breakfast ready?" Tom asks, hopefully. "Should be," you reply, suddenly aware of the hollow ache in your own belly. "Let's go see." Back at the house, the scene has transformed. The fire blazes properly now, filling the room with blessed warmth. The rich smell of baking bread makes your mouth water instantly. Eliza has been busy. A pot of pottage bubbles over the fire. A thin stew of whatever vegetables could be found and stretched with barley. A pitcher of ale sits on the table. Not the strong stuff, just the small beer everyone drinks all day instead of water. "Found her then?" Eliza asks, looking up from where she's teaching your daughter Agnes to spin wool on a drop spindle. At 6 years old, Agnes is already learning the skills she'll need her whole life. Your son Edward, just 4, is feeding kindling into the fire under his mother's watchful eye. "Caught in the brambles," you confirm, taking a deep draught of ale. It's weak but nourishing, with bits of barley floating in it. Not cold and crisp like modern beer. This is room temperature, cloudy, and alive with yeast. It's also safer than water from the well, which has made the whole family sick before. The bread isn't fancy, dark, dense, and a bit sour. No fine white bread for tenant farmers, but it fills the belly and gives strength for the day's labour. You tear off a chunk and dip it in the pottage. "The cow's eye looks better already," Eliza says, sitting down beside you. "That poultice is working." You nod, mouth full. Her herb knowledge has saved your livestock more than once. It's saved your children too. Many women with her skill might be accused of witchcraft, but Eliza is careful to say a prayer to the appropriate saint before applying any remedy. The line between accepted folk medicine and dangerous sorcery is thin and constantly moving. Snow's coming, you say after swallowing. Need to get the rest of those turnips up today. Eliza's face tightens with worry. That means slaughtering the pig early. We won't be able to feed it through a long winter. I know, you sigh. You'd hoped to fatten it more before killing it. A skinny pig means less meat to salt away, less fat for rushlights and cooking. Tomorrow maybe, after we see how much snow. The meal is over too quickly, but there's no time to linger. The sun is fully up now, and every daylight hour is precious. John, you and Tom start on the turnips, you instruct. I need to fix that hole in the cowshed roof before the snow comes. As they head out, Eliza catches your arm. The monastery messenger came while you were looking for the sheep, she says quietly. Abbot wants extra wool this year, says the king has increased taxes. Your heart sinks. Extra wool means less to sell at market, less to make into cloth for your family. It means thinner blankets next winter, fewer coins to tuck away in the small wooden box hidden beneath the floorboard. Did he say how much more? You ask, keeping your voice steady for the children's sake. Another 10th, she replies, and he wants 2 cheeses when I make them in spring. You close your eyes briefly. The monastery already takes so much, but what choice do you have? They own the land. They have the power to evict you if you protest. We'll manage, you say, though you're not sure how. We always do. Outside again, the day has warmed slightly, enough that your breath no longer freezes in front of you. You gather your tools, a hammer made by the village blacksmith, wooden pegs you carved yourself during the winter evenings, some bundles of reeds for patching the roof. As you work, your mind races with calculations. How many sheep will you need to shear to satisfy both the monastery and have enough left to sell? How long will the grain last if snow comes early? Should you slaughter the pig tomorrow or risk waiting another week to fatten it? This is the constant mental arithmetic of Tudor survival. One mistake, one bad decision, one stretch of awful weather, and everything you've worked for could disappear. The hole in the roof is worse than you thought. Squirrels have gotten in and damaged more of the thatch. As you work, a light snow begins to fall, earlier than you feared, but at least it's gentle so far. From your perch on the roof, you can see your whole world, the fields stretching away now dusted with white, the smoke rising from cottage chimneys in the distant village, the imposing stone walls of Merton Abbey on the horizon, solid and eternal, while peasant lives flicker briefly like candle flames. The monastery bells ring again, marking terce, the 3rd hour of prayer. For the monks, the day is divided into 8 sacred periods. For you, it's simply divided into work. A shout from the turnip field draws your attention. John is waving excitedly. Either they've found a turnip of remarkable size, or there's trouble. Given your luck today, you're betting on trouble. With a sigh, you carefully climb down from the roof, your body already aching though the day is barely begun. Tudor farmers don't grow old. They just get more bent, more weathered, more acquainted with pain, until one winter they simply don't wake up. "What is it?" you call, making your way across the muddy yard, the snow already turning to slush beneath your feet. "Found something," John shouts back. "In with the turnips." You quicken your pace, curious despite your weariness. As you reach the field, you see John and Tom standing over what looks like a small, mud-covered chest half buried in the soil. "Digging for turnips and hit something hard," Tom explains, pointing at the object. "Thought it was a rock at first." Your heart beats faster as you kneel beside it. Items buried in fields usually mean one of two things in Tudor England. Either someone was hiding valuables during one of the many wars and never returned for them, or it's something with a more sinister purpose. Items used for witchcraft or forbidden Catholic relics hidden during the religious upheavals. Should we open it? John asks, eyes wide with excitement. You hesitate, making the sign of the cross. If it's treasure, it legally belongs to the king. Not reporting it is a crime. If it's something heretical or magical, having it on your property could mean accusation and ruin. Master Fletcher, a new voice calls from the direction of the road. You look up to see a man on horseback approaching. Geoffrey Wells, the monastery's steward, come to inspect the farms under his jurisdiction. Your heart sinks. Of all the times for him to make his rounds, it has to be now. With a mysterious box half dug from your field. Hide it, you hiss to Tom. Fill in the hole. Now. As Tom and John scramble to conceal their find, you straighten up and plaster a deferential smile on your face. The monastery steward isn't technically nobility, but he might as well be for all the power he holds over your life. "Good morning, Master Wells," you call, walking to meet him at the edge of the field. "God's blessings on you this fine day." He doesn't smile back. "Fletcher," he acknowledges curtly. "I see the snow has found you too." "Just a dusting," you reply, trying to sound unconcerned. "We'll have the last of the harvest in before any real weather comes." Wells looks past you to where Tom and John are now innocently pulling turnips, the disturbed area smoothed over. His eyes narrow slightly, but he doesn't comment on it. "I've come about the additional tithe," he says instead. "The abbot requires confirmation that you received the message." You nod, keeping your face carefully neutral despite the anger and fear churning in your stomach. "My wife told me another 1/10 of the wool and 2 cheeses come spring, and you'll comply?" "It's not really a question." "Of course," you reply, "because what other answer is there? The monastery has always been fair to us." The lie tastes bitter on your tongue. Wells studies you for a moment, then nods. "See that the wool is of good quality this time, Fletcher. Last year's offering had too many short fibres." You bite back a retort. "Last year's offering was the best you could provide after sickness went through the flock. But arguing with the steward is like arguing with the weather, pointless and potentially dangerous. It will be our finest, you promise instead." He turns his horse to leave, then pauses. "Oh, and Fletcher, the abbot has heard rumours of hidden treasures being found in these fields, old Roman coins and such. Remember that all such findings belong to the crown and must be reported." Your blood runs cold. How could he know about the chest you just found? Unless he's simply fishing, making a general reminder. "Of course, Master Wells," you say, keeping your voice steady, "though we found nothing but stones and turnips in our fields." He gives you one last searching look before riding away, his horse's hooves splashing through the thickening slush. As soon as he's out of sight, you hurry back to Tom and John. "Did he see?" Tom asks in a whisper. "I don't think so," you reply, "but he mentioned hidden treasures. Said they belong to the crown." John's face falls. "So we can't keep it?" "We don't even know what it is yet," you remind him. "And we're not digging it up now. Tonight, after dark, when no one's watching." They nod in agreement, and you all return to work, though your mind is hardly on the turnips now. What's in that chest? Roman coins would be valuable, but dangerous to try to spend. Religious items could be even more dangerous to possess, depending on which way the religious winds are blowing this year. As you work, the snow falls more heavily, settling on your shoulders and cap. Your fingers grow numb despite the woolen mittens Eliza knitted last winter. The daylight, precious and brief in November, is already starting to fade, though it's barely past midday. This is life as a Tudor tenant farmer. Constant work, constant worry, constant calculations about survival. You're better off than many, with a secure tenancy and healthy children. But you're still just one bad harvest, one serious illness, one accusation of wrongdoing away from losing everything. As the monastery bells ring out again across the snowy fields, you straighten your aching back and look toward the small farmhouse where smoke rises steadily from the hole in the roof. Inside, Eliza will be spinning wool, teaching Agnes, keeping Edward from mischief, perhaps starting to prepare the evening pottage. Your world is small but precious. And now there's a mysterious chest buried in your turnip field, something that could bring wealth or ruin depending on what it contains and what you choose to do with it. As darkness approaches on this early winter day in Tudor England, you can't help but wonder if your life is about to change forever. The bells ring out once more across the snow-covered landscape, marking the passage of another hour. For the monks in their stone abbey, it's a call to prayer. For you, it's just another reminder that time passes, seasons change, and survival is never guaranteed in this world of mud and wool and endless toil. The snow falls heavier now, big flakes that catch on your eyelashes and melt against your warm breath. The last of the turnips are being pulled from the ground, mud-caked and solid in your hands. Each one represents meals that will keep your family alive when nothing grows. You count them instinctively as they fill the rough wooden barrow. 73, 74, 75. "That's it for this row," Tom says, his beard now flecked with snow. His hands are cracked and bleeding from the cold earth, but he doesn't complain. No Tudor farmer would. Pain is just part of staying alive. You nod, looking toward the small mound of disturbed soil where the chest lies buried. The snow is already covering the evidence of your find, nature conspiring to keep secrets. One more row, you decide, pointing to the final stretch of field. Then we take these in before they freeze. John groans but doesn't argue. The boy has been with you for 3 years now, since his father died of the sweating sickness that swept through the village. You feed him, clothe him, teach him your trade. In return, he works from dawn until dusk. It's how you learned farming from your own father, the only apprenticeship most will ever know. The mysterious chest tugs at your mind as you work, but there's no time for distractions. Life in 1500 operates on razor-thin margins. One moment of carelessness, a forgotten chore, an untended animal, a neglected repair can mean the difference between survival and disaster. As you pull the last turnip free, something glints in the soil. You freeze, glancing around to make sure no one from the monastery is watching, then carefully brush away the dirt. Holy Mother, you breathe. A small silver coin sits in your palm, black with age but unmistakably valuable. Roman, maybe, or Saxon, from a time before even the Normans came. Tom appears at your shoulder, eyes widening. That worth something? "More than I earn in 2 months, you whisper, turning it over. The worn face of some long-dead emperor stares back at you. "The monastery would claim it," Tom says, his voice low. "King's men, too." "Aye," you reply, closing your fist around it. The metal warms against your skin, already feeling like it belongs to you, like it was meant for you to find it after centuries buried in this soil. You slip the coin into the small leather pouch tied at your belt beneath your jerkin where it won't be seen. Is this theft? Technically, yes. The law says treasure belongs to the crown, but the law was made by men who've never watched their children go hungry, never counted turnips, as if they were gold. "Not a word," you tell Tom and John. "Not even to Eliza." "Not yet." They nod solemnly. They understand. In Tudor England, loose lips don't just sink ships, they hang men. The farmyard is a churning mess of mud and slush by the time you return with the turnips. Your boots make sucking sounds with each step, and the barrow wheels leave deep ruts in the muck. The smell of wood smoke and cooking fills the air, mixing with the earthy scent of livestock and the metallic tang of approaching heavier snow. "Get those inside," you instruct John, nodding toward the root cellar dug into the side of a small rise behind the house. "Layer them with straw, mind. Any that got nicked, set aside for eating first." As he hauls the barrow away, you turn to Tom. "Check the animals once more before dark. Make sure everything's secure. Snow like this brings wolves closer to the farms." The older man nods, already moving toward the cowshed. At 60, he's ancient by the standards of your time, his knowledge as valuable as any tool on the farm. Inside the house, warmth hits you like a physical force. The central fire blazes merrily, and the smell of baking breaks through even your snow-numbed nose. Your mouth waters instantly. "Will, thank God," Eliza says, looking up from where she's stuffing dried grass into Edward's worn-out shoes. "I was worried with the snow coming so hard. Takes more than a bit of weather to keep me from my dinner," you reply with a wink that makes her smile, despite the worry lines etched around her eyes. Agnes sits by the fire, carefully wrapping rushlights, twisted reeds dipped in sheep fat that will provide your only illumination after sunset. At 6, her fingers are nimble enough for the task, though her face shows the intense concentration of a child determined to please. "Look, Papa," she says proudly, holding up a completed rushlight. "I made 7 already." "Good girl," you say, ruffling her hair. "Clever hands like your mother." The coin seems to burn against your hip, a secret weight. You should tell Eliza. You've never kept anything from her before, but something holds you back. Fear, perhaps, or the simple desire to protect her from dangerous knowledge. "The steward came," you tell her instead, pulling off your sodden cap and moving closer to the fire. "Asked about the extra tithe." Eliza's face tightens almost imperceptibly. "What did you tell him?" "What could I tell him?" "That we'll pay." She nods, her hands never stopping their work even as she speaks. Tudor women don't have the luxury of giving conversations their full attention. There's always something to mend, stir, clean, or make. "I've been thinking," she says carefully, "if we sell the embroidered cloth I've been working on, we might make up some of the difference." You frown. She's been saving that cloth, an extraordinary piece worked on during rare moments of rest over the past year. It was meant to be Agnes's dowry contribution someday. "No," you say firmly, "we're not that desperate yet." The unspoken yet hangs in the air between you. How quickly fortunes can change in this world. "We could sell some ale," she suggests instead. "I've got the good batch almost ready." You consider this. Eliza's ale is exceptional, better than most you can get at the village alehouse. With the Martinmas fair coming in 2 weeks, you might fetch a decent price. Maybe, you concede. Though we'll need to be careful. The monastery doesn't like competition with their own brew house. "The monastery doesn't need to know everything," she replies with a rare flash of defiance. You smile despite yourself. This is why you married her, not just because your fathers arranged it, but because beneath her practical exterior beats a heart as fierce as any warrior's. "No," you agree, thinking of the coin hidden in your pouch. "They certainly don't." The door bangs open, and John staggers in, arms full of turnips. "These need cooking," he announces. "Got damaged in the digging." "More for the pot, then," Eliza says pragmatically, taking them from him. "Nothing goes to waste in a Tudor household. Nothing can afford to." As she begins to scrape the mud from the vegetables, you move to the small wooden chest in the corner, the only piece of furniture with a lock. Inside are your most valuable possessions: the deed to your tenancy, carefully wrapped in oiled cloth, a small silver cup that belonged to your grandfather, 3 silver pennies saved over as many years, and a knife with a bone handle used only on feast days. You add the Roman coin to this meagre treasure, tucking it beneath the cloth-wrapped deed where even Eliza is unlikely to look. As you close the chest, your fingers linger on the lock. 1 small box of valuables, the sum total of what you've managed to accumulate in a lifetime of back-breaking work. "Papa, can you tell us about the olden days?" Edward asks, looking up from where he's been quietly playing with carved wooden animals on the floor. "Before the big sickness came." You smile sadly. Even at 4, he's heard the stories of the Black Death that emptied whole villages just over a century ago, the plague that killed so many that the survivors could demand better wages, better conditions, the plague that, ironically, improved life for those who lived through it. "Those weren't the olden days, lad," you tell him, settling onto a stool by the fire. "That was your great-grandfather's time. The real olden days were when the Romans were here, building roads straight as arrows across the land." "Like the one that goes to London?" Agnes asks, setting aside her rushlights to listen. "Just like that," you nod. "They say the Romans had magic, not devil's magic, mind," you add quickly, making the sign of the cross. "But knowledge we've lost. They could make water run uphill through pipes. They had buildings tall as the abbey church, but made all of marble." "And buried treasure?" Edward asks, eyes wide. Your heart skips a beat. "What makes you ask that?" "Tom told me, said Romans buried coins and jewels when they left, so the Saxons wouldn't get them." You shoot a look at John, who shrugs helplessly. News travels fast, even when it's supposed to be secret. In a world without privacy, where families sleep in one room and village houses stand shoulder to shoulder, keeping anything hidden is nearly impossible. "Sometimes they did," you say, carefully, "but most was found long ago, or stolen, or lost forever." "Not all of it," John murmurs, too quiet for the children to hear. You silence him with a look. "Go help Tom with the animals," you tell him. "Make sure the sheep pen is secure." Once he's gone, Eliza gives you a searching look. "What aren't you telling me, Will Fletcher?" Before you can answer, a pounding comes at the door. Your heart jumps into your throat. The monastery steward returning? The sheriff? Some neighbour who's seen your find and wants to report it or claim a share? Tom bursts in, his face flushed with cold and excitement. "Riders coming from the abbey." "How many?" you ask, already reaching for your cap. "3, looks like. The abbot himself among them, by the fine horse he's on." Your blood runs cold. The abbot never makes personal visits to tenant farms. Never. Something is very wrong. "Get those turnips out of sight," you tell Eliza, gesturing to the vegetables still waiting to be scraped. "If the abbot sees your full harvest, he might increase your tithe again and hide the good ale." She moves quickly, efficiently, years of practice making her swift. The children, sensing the tension, press themselves against the wall, trying to become invisible. You step outside just as 3 horses come into the yard, massive beasts compared to your single plough horse, their breath steaming in the snowy air. The centre rider is indeed Abbot William, a corpulent man in fine wool robes lined with fox fur. On either side ride monks in simpler garb, though still cleaner and better fed than any farmer. "God's blessings on this house," the abbot intones as he awkwardly dismounts, his sandaled feet sinking into the mud despite the wooden pattens strapped to their bottoms. "And on you, Father Abbot," you reply, bowing your head, "you honour us with your presence." The abbot's eyes sweep across your farm, taking in the patched roof of the cowshed, the thin smoke from your chimney, the barren fields now dusted with snow. Is he calculating their worth, judging your stewardship? A modest holding, he remarks, though whether with approval or disdain is impossible to tell. Yet I hear you're a man of means, Fletcher. Your mouth goes dry. Means, father? I'm but a simple tenant. The abbot smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Come now. My steward tells me your sheep produce the finest wool in the parish. Your wife's cheese commands the highest price at market. You've even taken in an orphan boy. Very Christian of you. God provides, you say non-committally. Indeed he does, the abbot agrees, and it is through his church that such provisions flow, which brings me to the purpose of my visit. Here it comes, you think. More demands, more tithes, more impossible burdens on your already strained resources. The monastery requires stone for repairs to the north transept, the abbot continues. Your fields, I'm told, are particularly rich in good building stone just beneath the soil. You stare at him, uncomprehending at first, then understanding dawns, horrifying in its implications. You want to dig up my fields? You ask, forgetting proper deference in your shock. But father, the spring planting will proceed around our quarrying, the abbot interrupts smoothly. We'll take no more than an acre, the southeast corner, I think, where the soil is thinnest. An acre, 1/5 of your arable land rendered useless for a season, maybe longer. The rental fee won't be reduced, of course. The tithes will remain the same. You'll simply be expected to produce the same amount from less land. And if they dig in the southeast corner, they'll find the chest. It's a great honour, one of the monks adds, mistaking your silence for humility. The stone from your land will support God's house. You force yourself to nod, to murmur appropriate thanks. Inside, your mind races. If they find the chest, find the coin you've already taken. When would this work begin, father? You ask, trying to keep your voice steady. After Candlemas, the abbot replies. The ground will be too frozen before then. Candlemas, the 2nd of February, still 3 months away. You have time, at least, to figure out what to do about the chest, but the loss of the acre remains a devastating blow. We shall pray for mild weather, you say, because it's expected. The abbot nods, apparently satisfied with your acquiescence. What choice did you have, really? Refuse the church? Refuse your landlord? Impossible. One more matter, the abbot says, as if in afterthought. There are rumours of old treasures being found in these parts. Roman artefacts, pagan trinkets. Your heart nearly stops. Beside you, Tom shifts uncomfortably. Anything found belongs rightfully to the church, the abbot continues. Such items often carry demonic influence and must be properly blessed or destroyed. You understand? Of course, father, you manage to say, though we've found nothing but stones and turnips in our fields. The same words you gave the steward earlier, now repeated to the abbot himself. The lie feels weightier this time, more dangerous. Good, good, the abbot says. Nevertheless, I shall send Brother Thomas tomorrow to bless your fields, a precaution only. Your blood runs cold. This is no routine blessing. They're searching for something, but how could they know? Did someone see you find the coin? Is there a spy among your own people? We would be honoured. You lie, bowing your head to hide the fear in your eyes. As the abbot and his entourage remount and ride away, the snow falling heavier around them, you stand frozen in the yard. Tom approaches, his face grave. They know, he says quietly. They suspect, you correct him. It's not the same thing. What will you do about the chest? You glance around to ensure no one else is listening. Tonight, after dark, we dig it up and move it. And if it's too heavy, A valid concern. If it's filled with coins or metal, it might take several men to lift it. Then we empty it and rebury the chest, you decide. Either way, it can't stay where it is. Tom nods, then hesitates. And the coin you already took, your hand moves instinctively to your belt, where the pouch conceals the outline of the ancient silver piece. What coin? You ask pointedly. He understands. Some secrets are best kept even from friends. Inside the house, Eliza is stirring the pottage pot with quick, anxious movements. She doesn't ask what the abbot wanted. She heard everything through the thin walls. The children are subdued, sensing the tension in the air. We'll manage, you tell her, the same words you always say in the face of new hardships. We always do. She nods, but doesn't look at you. The soup's ready, is all she says. Dinner is a quiet affair. The pottage is thin, mostly turnips and barley with a small piece of salt pork for flavour. You have bread too, dark and dense, nothing like the fine white manchet loaves enjoyed by the monks, but it fills the belly, gives strength for the work ahead. As you eat, you can't help calculating losses in your head. An acre of land means 20 fewer bushels of barley next harvest. 20 bushels is 100 loaves of bread or 200 gallons of ale. It's the difference between comfortable survival and precarious subsistence. And that's assuming the monastery actually restricts itself to just 1 acre and returns the land in usable condition afterward. Neither is guaranteed. The coin in your pouch seems heavier with each passing moment. What if there are more in the chest, enough to buy land elsewhere, land not controlled by the monastery, or at least enough to make up for the lost acre? It's a dangerous thought. Tenant farmers don't escape their conditions. They don't suddenly rise to become landowners. The social order is fixed, ordained by God himself, or so the church teaches. Yet as you look at your children's faces in the firelight, at Eliza's worn hands and premature wrinkles, you can't help wondering, what if? We should sleep early, you announce, setting aside your wooden bowl. Long day tomorrow. No one argues. In winter, with darkness falling by mid-afternoon, early bedtimes are normal, but tonight you have other reasons for wanting the household settled. As the children are tucked into their truckle bed and Tom and John bed down on straw pallets near the fire, you catch Eliza's eye. A silent communication passes between you, the kind only possible after years of marriage. She nods slightly, understanding without words that something is happening tonight, something she shouldn't ask about directly. "I'll bank the fire," she says, giving you the excuse to be the last one awake. Hours pass. The house grows quiet except for the soft breathing of sleepers and the occasional pop from the dying fire. Outside, the snow continues to fall, muffling the world in white silence. When you're certain everyone is asleep, you slip from beneath the woolen blankets, careful not to disturb Eliza, though you suspect she's only pretending to sleep. You dress silently in the dark, a skill learned through a lifetime of pre-dawn awakenings. The cold hits you like a slap as you ease the door open and step outside. The snow is nearly knee-deep now, unusual for so early in the season. Bad luck, it will make digging more difficult, but good luck too, it will cover your tracks by morning. Tom is already waiting by the cowshed, a spade in his hands and a hooded lantern hanging from a pole stuck in the snow. The tiny flame inside is carefully screened to just a pinpoint of light, visible to you but not to any curious eyes at the monastery or neighbouring farms. "John," you whisper, noticing the boy's absence. "Sleeping," Tom replies. "Thought it best. Boys his age talk?" You nod, grateful for Tom's discretion. "Let's go." The walk to the field takes twice as long as usual, your feet breaking through the snow crust with every step. The silence is absolute, broken only by your laboured breathing and the soft crunch of snow. The turnip field looks different under starlight and snow. but Tom unerringly leads you to the spot where the chest lies buried. Without a word, you both begin to dig, taking turns with the single spade while the other keeps watch. The ground isn't fully frozen yet, but it's hard going. Your breath clouds around your face, your hands growing numb despite woolen mittens. Sweat forms under your layers, then turns icy cold against your skin. Then, thunk, metal striking wood. "There," Tom whispers, dropping to his knees to clear snow and soil with his hands. The chest is smaller than you expected, about the size of a bread loaf, not a treasure chest from children's tales, but a simple wooden box bound with corroded metal. It looks ancient, the wood dark and petrified with age. "Careful," you caution as Tom pries at the lid. "Might be fragile." With a soft creak, the lid lifts, and golden light spills out so bright after the darkness that you both gasp and shield your eyes. When your vision clears, you look down at the contents of the chest. Not coins, not jewellery or goblets or any treasure you would recognise. Instead, a smooth orb of what looks like glass, but clearer than any glass you've ever seen. It glows from within, pulsing gently like a heartbeat, casting your shadows long and strange across the snowy field. "Mother of God," Tom breathes, making the sign of the cross. "Witchcraft." You can't speak, can't move. The glowing orb seems to call to you, its light warm and inviting despite the frigid night air. "We need to close it," Tom says urgently. "Cover it up. Tell the abbot. This is devil's work, Will." His words break your trance. "No," you say firmly, and we don't know what it is. "It's unnatural, is what it is," Tom hisses, backing away from the chest. "No good Christian should touch such a thing." You stare at the orb, mesmerized by its pulsing glow. What is it? Roman? Older? Something left by the fairy folk that old women still whisper about? Or truly something demonic, a test of your faith? In that moment, a decision forms in your mind, one that will change everything. "Go back to the house," you tell Tom. "Tell no one what we found. If anyone asks, we came out to check on the animals because we heard wolves." "What are you going to do?" he asks, his voice shaking. You close the chest, shutting away the golden light, plunging the field back into darkness. "I'm going to keep it safe," you say, "until I figure out what it is," as you rebury the chest in a different spot, closer to the house, under the apple tree, where you can keep an eye on it. A strange sense of destiny settles over you. Whatever this glowing orb is, it's now bound to your fate. And tomorrow, when Brother Thomas comes to bless your fields, the real test will begin. Morning comes too soon, as it always does. Your sleep was fitful, haunted by dreams of golden light and stern-faced monks. Beside you, Eliza stirs, her warmth the only comfort in the pre-dawn chill. "You were out late," she murmurs, not opening her eyes. There's no accusation in her voice, just the simple observation of a woman who knows her husband's rhythms as well as her own heartbeat. "Thought I heard wolves," you reply, the lie sour on your tongue. In 16 years of marriage, you've rarely kept secrets from her. Her eyes open now, studying your face in the dim light filtering through the shutters. "Did you find any?" "No," you say, looking away. "Just the wind, I think." She's quiet for a moment. "The children were asking about the abbot's visit." "What did you tell them?" "That the monastery needs stone, that we'll have less land to farm come spring." She sits up, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. "I didn't tell them we might starve." The bluntness of her words hits you like a physical blow. It's the unspoken fear that's kept you awake. Less land means less food. Less food means hard choices about who eats and who doesn't. Unless the glowing orb changes everything. But how? Is it valuable, dangerous, a blessing, or a curse? "We won't starve," you say with more confidence than you feel. "I'll figure something out." Before she can press further, there's a commotion downstairs, the sound of the door opening, voices raised in greeting. Brother Thomas has arrived earlier than expected. You dress hastily, conscious of Eliza's questioning gaze following your movements. Downstairs, the monk stands, warming his hands by your fire, a thin man with a scholar's stoop and eyes that miss nothing. "God's blessings on this house," he intones as you descend the ladder from the sleeping loft. "And on you, Brother Thomas," you reply, bowing your head respectfully while your mind races. Did he bring others to search the fields? Has Tom talked in his sleep? But the monk seems to be alone. His brown robes dusted with snow, a small satchel his only possession. "The abbot sends me to bless your fields," he says, his voice neutral, "a protection against unforeseen discoveries." Your mouth goes dry. Of course, though there's little to see under all this snow. "Snow covers many things," Brother Thomas agrees, his gaze uncomfortably direct. "But the eyes of God see through all concealments. Is it your imagination, or is there a specific emphasis on the word all?" You force a smile, gesturing toward the crude wooden table where John is already setting out bowls for the morning pottage. "Will you break your fast with us before the blessing?" The monk hesitates, clearly torn between maintaining his separation from common folk and the warmth of your fire on a bitter morning. "A small repast would be welcome," he concedes finally, "though I observe the morning fast, just a crust of bread perhaps." As Eliza serves breakfast, the same thin barley pottage as last night, but now with a precious egg cracked into each bowl for protein, you watch Brother Thomas from the corner of your eye. He takes only bread, as promised, but his gaze lingers on your food with barely disguised longing. Despite their reputation for asceticism, many monks eat better than farmers. The monastery's kitchens are famous for their roasted meats, fine white bread, and imported wines. This one, at least, seems genuinely committed to his vows. "Your farm prospers under God's grace," Brother Thomas remarks, looking around your modest home. "Many have less, and many have more," you reply, immediately regretting the hint of bitterness in your tone. If the monk notices, he doesn't comment. Instead, he turns his attention to Agnes and Edward, who are eating quietly, stealing glances at this unusual visitor. "Have you been teaching the children their prayers?" he asks Eliza. "Of course, brother. They know the Pater Noster and Ave Maria in both English and Latin." It's a slight exaggeration. The children stumble over the Latin, but Brother Thomas seems satisfied. Good. And they attend Mass every Sunday?" "Without fail," you answer, though there have been Sundays when illness or foul weather kept you all at home. Such absences are technically sins requiring confession, but the village priest, Father Stephen, is understanding of farmers' lives in ways the monastery often isn't. "The blessed saints protect those who honour them," Brother Thomas says, directing his words to the children. "Especially those who keep their eyes lowered and their tongues still when adults are speaking." Is there meaning hidden in this seemingly innocent admonition? A warning about secrets and those who reveal them? Once breakfast is finished, the monk rises. Now to the blessing. Outside, the world is transformed. The snowfall has stopped, leaving behind a pristine blanket of white covering fields, roofs, and trees. In the distance, the monastery buildings rise against the pale blue sky, their stone walls and slate roofs untouched by the temporary beauty of snow. Brother Thomas produces a small vial of holy water from his satchel and begins to walk the boundaries of your farm, sprinkling droplets and murmuring Latin prayers. You follow a respectful distance behind, your breath clouding in the frigid air. When you reach the turnip field, now just a white expanse indistinguishable from the surrounding land, your heart beats faster. The monk pauses, looking around with narrowed eyes. The abbot says there may be old pagan artifacts in this area, he says conversationally, things buried long ago when the Romans or even earlier peoples worshipped false gods. I've never found anything like that, you reply, the lie coming easier this time. Brother Thomas nods, then kneels in the snow, pressing his ear to the ground as if listening. The action is so unexpected that you simply stare, unsure what to do. After a long moment, he stands, brushing snow from his robes. The land speaks to those who know how to listen, he says cryptically. Today it whispers of change. Change, you echo, trying to keep your voice steady. He resumes walking, heading now toward the apple tree where you reburied the chest last night. Your stomach knots with tension. The turning of seasons, the falling of kings, the rising of common men to uncommon stations. He glances back at you. All part of God's plan, of course. You follow, fighting the urge to run ahead, to distract him somehow from his path toward your buried secret. But the monk stops before reaching the tree, turning instead toward the southeast corner of your land, the acre the abbot intends to claim for quarrying. This area in particular, he says, making an elaborate sign of the cross over the snow-covered ground, must be thoroughly blessed. The abbot has plans for it. So I've been told, you manage to reply. Brother Thomas completes his circuit of your fields in silence, the only sound the crunch of snow beneath your feet and the distant call of crows from the bare oak trees beyond your property. When he finishes, he turns to you with an unreadable expression. "Fletcher," he says, his voice suddenly lower, more intimate, "how much do you know of the old ways?" The question sends ice through your veins that has nothing to do with the winter cold. The old ways can only mean pre-Christian beliefs. Paganism, witchcraft, heresy, even discussing such things can lead to dangerous accusations. "Nothing, brother," you reply quickly. "I'm a God-fearing Christian man." He studies you for a long moment, then nods slightly. "Of course, as are we all in these enlightened times." His tone suggests something different from his words. Yet knowledge of the past is not itself a sin, merely the practice of forbidden rites. You say nothing, afraid that any response might incriminate you further. "There are stories," Brother Thomas continues, seemingly unbothered by your silence, "of objects from the time before Christ, objects of great power, neither holy nor unholy in themselves, but dangerous in the wrong hands. The glowing orb flashes in your memory." "Just stories, surely, you say?" "Say. Perhaps." The monk adjusts his satchel. "Or perhaps not. The Church Fathers teach us that all tales contain seeds of truth, wrapped though they may be in the chaff of superstition." He begins walking back toward your house, forcing you to follow. "Should you ever encounter such an object, Fletcher, hypothetically, of course, your Christian duty would be to bring it to the monastery for safekeeping. Of course," you agree automatically. Although, he adds, glancing sideways at you, there are some who say the monasteries are not the only proper guardians of such things. Some believe these objects belong to the land itself and to those who work it. Your step falters. Is this some kind of test? A trap to lure you into admitting heretical thoughts? "I wouldn't know about such beliefs," you say carefully. Brother Thomas stops, turning to face you fully. No, I suppose you wouldn't, he sighs, his breath a white plume in the cold air. The blessing is complete. Your fields are protected from whatever may lie beneath them. Thank you, brother. I'll take my leave now. The abbot will expect my report before vespers. A chill that has nothing to do with the snow runs through you. Report? On the blessing, he clarifies, though his slight smile suggests other meanings. Nothing more. As you watch him trudge away across the snow-covered path toward the village, confusion swirls in your mind like the snowflakes that have begun to fall again, light and tentative. Was he warning you, threatening you, offering some kind of alliance? Tom appears from the barn, watching the monk's departing figure with narrowed eyes. What did he want? To bless the fields, you reply, still staring after Brother Thomas. And to talk in riddles. Did he go near the apple tree? No. You turn to Tom, lowering your voice though there's no one to overhear. But he knows something, or suspects at least. Tom spits into the snow. Monks always think they know more than they do. It's their way. Perhaps he's right. Perhaps Brother Thomas was simply trying to unsettle you, to provoke a confession of some kind, yet his words about objects of power, about guardians other than the monasteries, nag at your thoughts. I need to go to the village, you decide suddenly. We need salt, anyway, and news. Tom nods. The village is the centre of information. Gossip, rumours, warnings passed from mouth to mouth faster than any official proclamation. If there are stories about glowing orbs or Roman treasures, someone there will know them. Take the sled, he suggests. Roads will be bad after the snow. Inside, you explain your plan to Eliza, who is already at her spinning wheel, the daily work of turning wool into thread that never ends for Tudor women. The village, she repeats, her hands never stopping their rhythmic movement. Today, the path will be treacherous. We need salt, you remind her, and I want to speak with Father Stephen. Something in your tone must alert her that this is more than a routine trip. She studies your face, then nods slowly. Take Agnes, she suggests. She should make her confession before Advent begins. It's a sensible suggestion, the kind of ordinary family errand that won't raise suspicions. But you hesitate. Do you want your daughter involved in whatever is happening? Then again, leaving her behind might put her at greater risk if the abbot sends more monks to search your farm. Good thought, you agree finally. We'll stop at the church first. Agnes is delighted by the unexpected outing, bouncing with excitement as you harness your old plough horse to the small wooden sled. At 6, trips to the village are rare adventures, even if they include the tedium of confession. The journey is slow going. The snow is deeper than it looked from your farmyard, in places reaching the horse's knees. The sled runners cut through the white blanket, leaving parallel tracks behind you like the trails of giant serpents. Agnes sits wrapped in an extra blanket, her nose and cheeks red with cold despite the woolen scarf covering the lower half of her face. "Papa," she says after a while, her voice muffled, "is Brother Thomas a good man?" The question startles you. "He's a man of God," you answer automatically, the safe response. "But is he good?" she persists. "Mama says some men of God think more about power than about Jesus." You glance at your daughter, surprised by her perception and by Eliza's candour. Such observations, while perhaps true, are dangerous if spoken in the wrong company. "Your mother is a wise woman," you say carefully, "but we must respect the church all the same." Agnes considers this, her breath puffing out in small clouds. "Like we respect the bull in the village common," she suggests, "because he's dangerous, not because he's good." despite your worries, you laugh. Something like that, though don't repeat that comparison to Father Stephen. The mention of the village priest brings a smile to her face. Unlike the monastery monks, Father Stephen is beloved by his parishioners, a rotund, red-faced man who understands the hardships of rural life and interprets church doctrine with a practical flexibility that sometimes borders on the heretical. The village appears ahead, a cluster of timber-framed houses and shops around a central green, smoke rising from every chimney into the grey winter sky. At its heart stands the parish church, its square tower visible from miles around, a symbol of God's presence in everyday life. Unlike the grand monastery buildings, the village church is a humble structure built of local stone with a roof of wooden shingles now covered in snow. Yet for the villagers, it's the centre of both spiritual and social life, the place where they worship, celebrate, gossip, and mark every significant moment from birth to death. You guide the horse toward the church first, helping Agnes down from the sled. The building's interior is noticeably warmer than outside, though still cold enough that your breath clouds before you. Candles flicker in iron holders, casting wavering shadows on whitewashed walls decorated with simple paintings of saints and biblical scenes. Father Stephen emerges from the vestry, his substantial girth wrapped in worn clerical robes, a cup of something steaming in his hand. "Will Fletcher," he booms, his voice echoing in the empty church. "And little Agnes, too. What brings you to God's house on this frozen day?" "Agnes needs to make her confession before Advent," you explain, watching your daughter curtsy to the priest as she's been taught. "And I hoped for a word with you, Father." Of course. He sets down his cup, small beer by the smell of it, and beckons Agnes toward the confessional, a simple wooden booth near the altar. "Ladies first, then. I'll hear your sins, child, though I doubt they're worth the journey through all this snow." While Agnes makes her confession, a brief affair for a 6-year-old whose worst transgressions are likely disobedience or petty squabbles with her brother, you wander the church, your eyes drawn to the painted scenes on the walls. Most are familiar Bible stories: Noah's Ark, Daniel in the lion's den, Christ's crucifixion, but one catches your attention. In the shadowy corner near the font, partially obscured by a wooden pillar, is a faded painting you've never noticed before. It shows a man in Roman dress, holding what appears to be a glowing sphere, his face illuminated by its light. Your heart pounds as you move closer, straining to see details in the dim light. Around the Roman figure stand people in simple clothing, farmers by their dress, reaching toward the orb with expressions of wonder. "Ah, you found our little mystery," Father Stephen's voice makes you jump. You turn to find him standing behind you, Agnes at his side, looking bored now that her confession is complete. "What is it?" you ask, trying to keep your voice casual. "No one really knows," the priest admits, studying the painting. "It was here when I arrived 20 years ago, already old and fading then. Some say it depicts a Roman general bringing the light of civilization to Britain. Others claim it's a pagan story that somehow escaped the whitewashing when the church was converted from Catholic to Reformed and back again." He chuckles. "I rather like it, whatever it is. Adds a bit of mystery to our humble parish." "The orb," you press, unable to help yourself. "What is it supposed to be?" Father Stephen shrugs his substantial shoulders. "The sun, perhaps, or some Roman treasure. The old sacristan used to tell a tale about a magical object buried by the Romans when they fled. Something with the power to grant wishes or heal the sick, but that's just village superstition." He crosses himself hastily, as if to ward off accusations of heresy. "Just superstition," you agree, doing the same. "Or now then," he says, changing the subject. "You wanted a word." You glance at Agnes, who is now examining the baptismal font with childish curiosity. "Something private." Understanding dawns in the priest's eyes. "Agnes, my child," he calls, "would you be so kind as to check if any candles need replacing on the altar? It's important work, preparing God's house for Sunday." She nods solemnly, pleased by the responsibility, and moves toward the altar, out of earshot, but still within sight. "What troubles you, Will?" Father Stephen asks, his voice lower now. "Is it the abbot's plan to quarry your land? I heard about that. Criminal, if you ask me, though of course I never said such a thing." He winks. "It's related," you admit, choosing your words carefully. "Father, what do you know about objects from the Roman times? Things that might seem..." You hesitate, unsure how to describe the orb without sounding like a madman or a heretic. "Magical?" Father Stephen supplies, his bushy eyebrows rising. "This is about more than an old painting, I take it." You say nothing, which is answer enough. The priest sighs, running a hand through his thinning hair. "Come to the rectory," he decides. "Agnes can warm herself by my fire while we talk. Some conversations shouldn't happen even in an empty church." The rectory is attached to the church by a covered walkway, a small but comfortable house that serves as both Father Stephen's home and the parish office. A fire burns cheerfully in the hearth, and the single room smells pleasantly of cooking and the dried herbs hanging from the rafters. Agnes is given a small honey cake and a seat by the fire, where she's soon contentedly drowsy from the warmth. Father Stephen leads you to the far corner, where a small desk holds his parish records and a few precious books. "So," he says quietly, "you've found something, haven't you? Something Roman, something that glows." The directness of his question leaves you speechless for a moment. "How did you—" "You're not the first," the priest interrupts, pulling a worn leather volume from beneath a stack of papers. "Not in this parish, at least." He opens the book, revealing handwritten pages in a spidery script. "My predecessor kept records of more than just births, deaths, and marriages. He recorded the unusual happenings in the parish as well, things the monastery wouldn't approve of him documenting." You lean closer, trying to make out the faded writing. The page he's opened to shows a crude drawing similar to the painting in the church, a spherical object emanating rays of light. "In the year of our Lord 1462, Father Stephen reads, a farmer named John Thatcher unearthed while ploughing a strange globe of crystal that shone within a light. He kept it hidden for a fortnight, during which time his ailing wife recovered her health, his barren fields produced grain, and his empty purse filled with silver pennies. When the abbot's men came searching, Thatcher fled with the globe, never to be seen again in these parts." He looks up from the book, his expression grave. There are 3 more such accounts in this volume, spanning 2 centuries. Always a farmer, always a glowing orb, always sudden good fortune followed by disappearance or disaster when the church authorities learned of it. Your mouth is dry. What is it? I don't know, Father Stephen admits. My theological training says it must be either divine or demonic. There is no third option in church doctrine. He closes the book carefully. But my heart wonders if there might be things in God's creation that are simply beyond our understanding, neither good nor evil in themselves, but powerful all the same. It's dangerously close to heresy, this suggestion of supernatural forces outside the Church's neat categorization, yet it aligns with what you've seen, and with Brother Thomas's cryptic words about objects that are neither holy nor unholy. If someone had found such an object, you say hypothetically, what would you advise them to do? Father Stephen's gaze is piercing. Officially, as a priest of the Holy Church, I would be obligated to advise them to surrender it to the proper religious authorities. He pauses. Unofficially, as a man who has watched those same authorities grind good people into poverty while claiming to do God's work. He shrugs expressively. The monastery will dig up my field come Candlemas, you say. If there was something buried there, they would find it, the priest finishes, and whatever power it possesses would belong to the abbot, not to the man who discovered it. You nod slowly, understanding the unspoken advice. If you want to keep the orb, you must move it somewhere the monastery won't search. Or you must use its power, whatever that may be, before they take it from you. Thank you, Father, you say, for the historical information. He smiles slightly. History is a great teacher, Will Fletcher. Now, I believe you mentioned needing salt. The market will be closing soon with this weather. Taking his cue, you wake Agnes from her drowsy state by the fire and thank the priest for his hospitality. As you turn to leave, he places a hand on your shoulder. Be careful, he says quietly. Power draws the powerful like honey draws flies. And remember, what matters most is not what you find, but what you do with it. With those cryptic words echoing in your mind, you lead Agnes back to the sled and continue to the village market, a small open area near the green where local merchants and farmers sell their goods. Today, only a few hardy souls brave the cold. A spice merchant wrapped in furs, a woman selling woolen cloth, a blacksmith displaying ironwork. As Agnes examines the cloth merchant's wares, simple homespun wool, nothing like the fine fabrics worn by the wealthy, but still a luxury for a farmer's daughter, you purchase salt from the spice merchant, who also deals in such necessities. Bad winter coming, the merchant comments as he measures out your purchase. Birds flying south earlier than usual. So it seems, you agree, counting out the precious few coins this transaction requires. Any other news? The merchant glances around, then leans closer. King's raising taxes again, they say, and there's strange talk from up north, lights in the sky, crops growing out of season, some calling it miracles, others. He makes a warding gesture against witchcraft. Your skin prickles. Just talk. Surely. Maybe. He doesn't sound convinced. But the monastery's sent men to investigate, looking for something specific from what I hear. Before you can ask more, Agnes returns, her exploration of the cloth merchant's stall complete. Can we go home now, Papa? My feet are cold. Yes, sweetheart. You nod farewell to the merchant, tucking away this new information alongside everything else you've learned today. As you head home through the deepening afternoon, the sled cutting fresh tracks in snow that has begun to fall again, Agnes dozes against your side, wrapped in blankets. Your mind races with possibilities and dangers. The glowing orb is clearly more significant than you first realized. Others have found similar objects before. They've brought good fortune, healing, abundance, wealth, but also danger from those who would take such power for themselves. And now the monastery is actively searching for these objects, not just on your land but across the region. Brother Thomas's blessing was indeed a searching, as you suspected, and the abbot's plan to quarry your field is likely no coincidence. The question remains, what will you do with this knowledge, with the orb itself? By the time your farmhouse comes into view, smoke rising reassuringly from its chimney, you've made your decision. Tonight, once the household sleeps, you'll dig up the orb again. Not to rebury it elsewhere. That's too risky with the monastery watching so closely. No, you'll take it out. Look at it properly. Try to understand what power it holds and how you might use it to save your farm, your family, your future. As the horse plods the final distance home, fat snowflakes catching in its mane and on Agnes's eyelashes, you wonder if this is how it began for John Thatcher and the others, with a simple decision to look more closely at something extraordinary. Did they know the risks they were taking? Did they understand how their lives would change? Probably not. But then, neither do you. All you know is that you can't surrender this chance, perhaps your only chance, to change your family's fortune. The monastery bells ring in the distance, calling the monks to evening prayer. Their sound carries across the snow-covered fields, a reminder of the power that has governed your life since birth. But perhaps, just perhaps, that power is about to shift. The house is alive with activity when you return. Eliza stokes the fire while Edward chases the farm cat around the table legs. Tom and John stamp snow from their boots by the door, their cheeks red from cold. The familiar scene of your household going about its daily business should comfort you. But your mind is too full of orbs and mysteries and warnings. You were gone a while, Eliza remarks, taking the small sack of salt from your hands. Your roads were bad, you reply, helping a sleepy Agnes remove her snow-crusted outer garments, and Father Stephen had much to say. Something in your tone must alert her. She gives you a searching look, but asks no questions, not with so many ears listening. Did you get everything? She asks instead. Salt, news, and a clear conscience for our daughter, you say with forced lightness. A successful journey. She nods, turning back to the fire where a pot of something bubbles. Good. You're just in time for dinner. The midday meal is the main one of the Tudor day. By 11 o'clock, everyone has been working for 6 hours or more and needs substantial food to continue through the afternoon. Today, it's peas pottage, dried peas simmered with whatever vegetables could be spared and a small piece of salt pork for flavour. There's barley bread too, dark and dense, and small beer for everyone, even the children. In wealthier households, there might be several courses with roasted meats and pies and puddings, but for tenant farmers, one hearty dish that fills the belly is the best that can be managed on ordinary days. The abbot sent 3 monks to the miller's farm yesterday, Tom says, as you eat. Searching for something, Joan Miller said. Your spoon pauses halfway to your mouth. Did they find it? Tom shrugs. Joan didn't say, but they dug up part of the kitchen garden, ruined her winter kale. Why would monks dig up kale? Agnes asks, her face scrunched in confusion. They weren't looking for kale, silly, Edward says with the superiority of his 4 years. They were looking for treasure. Treasure? Agnes's eyes widen. Like gold and jewels? That's enough, Eliza says firmly. Eat your pottage before it gets cold. The children return to their food, but the adults exchange meaningful glances. The abbot's search is expanding. It's only a matter of time before they come to your farm, and not just for a symbolic blessing next time. I'll need to check the apple tree after dinner, you say carefully. Make sure that broken branch isn't going to fall on someone's head. Tom nods slightly, understanding your meaning. The chest needs to be moved again, somewhere even farther from prying eyes. The meal continues with talk of more ordinary matters, the need to repair a hole in the chicken coop, whether the remaining turnips should be stored in the root cellar or kept in the kitchen for immediate use, if the snow will last or melt before Christmas. These mundane concerns are the heartbeat of Tudor life. Weather, food, repairs, planning, an endless cycle of work broken only by church festivals and the rhythms of the agricultural year. After eating, the household disperses to their afternoon tasks. In summer, everyone would return to the fields working until sunset, but winter days are different. With darkness falling by mid-afternoon, much of the work moves indoors. Eliza and Agnes sit by the window where the light is strongest, spinning wool into yarn, an endless task that occupies most of a Tudor woman's spare moments. Edward plays quietly with wooden animals carved by Tom during last winter's long evenings. John mends a harness, his tongue poking out of the corner of his mouth as he concentrates on pushing the thick needle through tough leather. You and Tom head outside, ostensibly to check on the animals and that broken apple tree branch. The afternoon is already fading toward dusk, the sky heavy with the promise of more snow. "We need to move it tonight," you say quietly as you feed hay to the cow. "Somewhere they won't think to look." Tom nods, pitchfork paused mid-motion. "But where? They've been to the miller's already. They're searching systematically." It's a good question. Where can you hide something from men who have the authority to search any building, any field, any corner of your life? Not on the farm, you decide. Somewhere else entirely. The woods, Tom suggests. There's that old hollow oak by the stream. You shake your head. Too damp. And animals might dig it up. "The church, then," he says, lowering his voice further, though there's no one to overhear. "No one would look for it in God's house." The idea has merit. Father Stephen seems sympathetic, and the monastery would be unlikely to search the village church without good reason, but hiding a potentially pagan artifact in a church feels like a deeper sacrilege than simply keeping it buried in your field. "I don't know," you say, uncertain. "Let me think on it." Tom shrugs. "Don't think too long. That Brother Thomas didn't strike me as the patient sort." As dusk settles over the farm, the family gathers again for the evening meal, a simpler affair than dinner, usually just bread and cheese and perhaps some dried fruit. Tonight, Eliza has made a treat, small cakes of oats and honey baked in the embers of the fire. "What's the occasion?" you ask, surprised by this luxury. "Agnes helped Father Stephen clean the altar candle holders," she explains. "He gave her the honey as payment." You raise an eyebrow at your daughter, who grins proudly. "Did he now? Very generous of him." "He said to share it with everyone," Agnes says, though her expression suggests she'd rather have kept it all for herself, and to remember that sweetness comes to those who serve others. You and Eliza exchange a glance. Is this some kind of message from the priest? A hint about the orb, perhaps? Or simply a pious platitude taught to a child? The evening passes slowly. Tom whittles by the fire, creating a new toy for Edward. John mends his torn hose, squinting in the dim light of the rushlights. Eliza continues her endless spinning, the wheel creaking rhythmically. The children, unusually subdued, play a quiet game with pebbles and a marked piece of leather. Every moment feels stretched, your awareness heightened by anticipation of what's to come. The weight of your secret, the orb, the chest, the potential it represents, sits heavy on your shoulders. Finally, it's time for bed. The children climb the ladder to the sleeping loft first, followed by Eliza. Tom and John roll out their pallets near the dying fire, their breathing soon deepening into sleep. You lie awake beside Eliza, waiting. Her hand finds yours in the darkness. "Whatever it is," she whispers, so softly you can barely hear, "be careful," so she knows, or suspects at least, that something significant is happening. Of course she does. 16 years of marriage has taught her to read the subtle signs of your worry, your distraction. "I will," you promise, squeezing her hand. When the house is silent except for the soft breathing of sleepers and the occasional pop from the banked fire, you slip out of bed once more. This time you take the small iron-bound box from the corner, the one that holds your few valuables, and tuck it under your arm. Outside, the night is clear and bitterly cold, the snow frozen into a crust that crunches beneath your feet. Stars blaze overhead, countless points of light in the black velvet sky. Your breath forms clouds that hang momentarily in the still air before dissipating. The apple tree stands like a sentinel at the edge of the garden, its bare branches etched against the starlit snow. You kneel beside it, brushing away the loose snow covering the spot where you buried the chest. The ground is frozen solid. You've brought a small iron pry bar, and it takes all your strength to break through the icy crust. Beneath, the soil is still relatively soft, protected from the deepest frost. You dig quickly, fingers numbing despite your woolen mittens. The chest appears, just as you left it. Small, ancient, unremarkable except for what it contains. You lift it carefully, surprised again by how light it is, and tuck it under your arm alongside your own box of valuables. But where to take it? The hollow oak Tom suggested. The church? Some other hiding place? A thought strikes you. The best place to hide something is often in plain sight, disguised as something ordinary. Your own locked box, the one that contains your few precious possessions, is just large enough to hold the smaller chest. Instead of taking it elsewhere, you return to the house, moving as silently as possible across the creaking floorboards. In the dim glow of the banked fire, you open your box and carefully place the ancient chest inside, then lock it once more and return it to its usual corner. There, hidden in plain sight. The monastery might search your farm, but they're unlikely to demand you open your personal strongbox, and if they do, well, you'll face that problem when it comes. But before returning to bed, curiosity overcomes caution. You need to see the orb again to understand what you're risking everything to protect. You take the box to the far corner of the room, where a dying ember in the fire casts just enough light to see by, yet not enough to wake the sleepers. With trembling fingers, you unlock the box and remove the ancient chest. The wood is dark with age, the metal bindings green with verdigris. It looks utterly ordinary, the sort of container a Roman soldier might have used to store personal items. Nothing about its exterior suggests the marvel within. You open the lid just a crack, and immediately golden light spills out, illuminating your hands with an otherworldly glow. Glancing nervously at the sleeping forms of Tom and John, you open it just wide enough to see the orb itself. It sits nestled in what looks like velvet, though the fabric is so ancient it's impossible to be certain. Perfectly round, about the size of a large apple, it appears to be made of crystal or glass, but clearer than any you've ever seen, and from its centre radiates light, not the flickering orange-yellow of fire or the harsh white of lightning, but a warm golden glow that pulses gently like a heartbeat. Despite your fear, you find yourself reaching for it. Something about the light calls to you, invites your touch. Your fingertips brush its surface, which is neither hot nor cold, but seems to vibrate slightly, as if alive. The moment your skin makes contact, the light intensifies, not painfully bright, but filling your vision, washing over you like summer sunshine. A strange sensation floods your body, a tingling warmth that starts where your fingers touch the orb and spreads up your arm, across your chest, throughout your entire being. For a moment that seems both instantaneous and eternal, you feel different, lighter, as if some burden you've carried so long you'd forgotten its weight has suddenly lifted. The chronic ache in your lower back from years of bending over a plough, gone. The stiffness in your right knee from an old injury vanished. Even your vision seemed sharper, the dim corner suddenly as clear as midday. Then, as quickly as it began, the sensation fades. The light retreats back into the orb, still glowing but contained once more. You blink, disoriented, your heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. What just happened? What is this thing? A soft sound makes you jump. Tom has shifted in his sleep, turning over on his pallet. You quickly close the chest, hiding the golden light, and return it to your box. Your hands are shaking as you lock it and replace it in the corner. Back in bed beside Eliza, you lie awake for hours, your mind racing. The sensation of wellness, of renewal, lingers in your body. You flex your right hand, the one that touched the orb, and marvel at how the joints move without the usual stiffness, how even the old scar across your palm from a scythe accident seems faded. Did the orb heal you? Is that its power, the ability to cure ailments? If so, it's worth more than gold. In a world where most illnesses go untreated, except for folk remedies and prayer, true healing is beyond price. But is it divine or demonic? A blessing or a curse? Father Stephen's warning echoes in your mind. Power draws the powerful like honey draws flies. If the abbot learns what the orb can do, he'll stop at nothing to possess it. Morning comes too soon, as always, but for the first time in years you wake without the usual chorus of aches and pains. You sit up, marvelling at how easily your body responds, how clear your head feels despite the short, troubled sleep. Eliza notices immediately. "You're moving differently," she observes as you dress. "Did something happen to your back?" "Must have slept well." You deflect, though her knowing look suggests she doesn't believe you. Downstairs, the day begins as always. Fire to light, animals to feed, bread to bake. But everything feels subtly altered. Colours seem more vivid, sounds clearer. Even the coarse bread and thin porridge of breakfast taste richer somehow. Is it the orb's influence? Or simply your imagination? Your senses heightened by the extraordinary events of the past 2 days. As you step outside to check on the animals, you notice something odd. Despite the frozen ground and recent snow, the apple tree, the one where you first buried the chest, has a single green bud on one branch. In December, in England, you stare at it, a chill that has nothing to do with the winter cold running down your spine. The tree is responding to the orb's presence, awakening out of season. If anyone from the monastery sees this unnatural growth. "Will," Tom's voice calls from the barn. "Come quick." You hurry over, worried about what new problem might have arisen, but Tom's face shows amazement, not alarm. "The cow," he says, gesturing inside. "Her eye, it's completely healed." Sure enough, the brown cow's infected eye, which yesterday was crusted and weeping, now looks perfectly normal. She chews her hay contentedly, showing no sign of the ailment that had threatened her health and your livelihood. "Oh, how?" Tom whispers. Eliza's poultice wasn't that powerful. You shake your head, feigning ignorance, though your mind immediately connects this miraculous recovery to the orb's golden light. God's will, you say, the standard Tudor explanation for anything unexplainable. Tom gives you a skeptical look but doesn't press the issue. Well, whatever the cause, it's good news. One less worry. Throughout the morning, you notice other small changes around the farm. The chickens have laid twice their usual number of eggs. The fire burns hotter despite using less wood. Even the patch of ice that always forms by the well has melted, making water collection easier. None of these things is dramatic enough to raise alarm, to suggest witchcraft or divine intervention. They could all be coincidences or simply good fortune, but you know better. The orb's influence is spreading through your farm, bringing health and abundance, even in the dead of winter. By midday, Eliza has noticed too. She pulls you aside as you come in for dinner, her voice low to avoid the children's ears. "Something's happening," she says without preamble. "The hens, the fire, the cow's eye, even you're moving like a man half your age. There's no point denying it. She knows you too well. I found something," you admit, keeping your voice to a whisper. "In the field. Something valuable." Her eyes widen slightly. "The chest Tom was talking about." So she overheard. Of course she did. In a small Tudor house, privacy is almost impossible. "Yes," you confirm, "but it's not what we thought. Not coins or jewellery." "What then?" "How do you explain a glowing orb of unknown origin and power? It sounds like madness, like witchcraft, like the kind of talk that gets people burned. It's difficult to describe," you hedge, "but I think it's helpful. To us. To the farm." Eliza studies your face, searching for truth. "Is it dangerous? Will it bring trouble?" "Only if the monastery finds it," you reply honestly. "They're looking for it, or something like it. That's what Brother Thomas was really doing here. That's why they want to quarry our land." She absorbs this, her practical mind calculating risks and benefits, as she always does. Where is it now? "In my strongbox, hidden in plain sight." She nods slowly. "Well, good, but She places a hand on your arm. "Be careful how you use it, whatever it is. Power changes people, even good people." Her wisdom, as always, cuts to the heart of the matter. The orb offers solutions to problems that have seemed insurmountable. Poverty, illness, the monastery's control. But at what cost? What might you become if you surrender fully to its influence? "I'll be careful," you promise, covering her hand with yours. The midday meal is unusually cheerful. The pottage is the same as always. Peas, turnips, a bit of salt pork, but somehow it tastes richer, more satisfying. Even John, normally reserved, laughs at Edward's childish jokes. The atmosphere in the small house feels lighter, warmer, as if some invisible cloud has lifted. Is this also the orb's doing, creating harmony as well as health and abundance? Or is it simply that worry takes a toll, and now that your most pressing concerns, the cow's eye, your aching back, the winter stores, have been alleviated, everyone feels the difference? After the meal, Tudor custom dictates a brief rest before afternoon work begins. The children curl up on pallets near the fire. Tom dozes in the corner. John goes to check on the animals one last time. You should rest too. The shortened days of winter mean every moment of daylight is precious for outdoor work, but your mind is too full. Instead, you sit at the table, Eliza beside you, both of you speaking in hushed tones. Father Stephen knew something about it, you tell her, describing your conversation with the priest and the strange painting in the church. He said others have found similar objects before, that they brought good fortune, but also danger. Eliza listens intently, her nimble fingers never stopping their work as she mends a tear in Edward's tunic. "And he advised you to keep it rather than surrender it to the monastery?" "Not in so many words," you admit, "but he made his meaning clear enough." She considers this. Father Stephen is a good man, practical. If he thinks this object is safe to keep, I trust his judgment. She pauses. But the abbot won't stop searching. "No," you agree, "and now they're digging up farms. They went to the miller's yesterday." "Then we need a better hiding place than your strong box," she says decisively. "Somewhere they'd never think to look, or..." She hesitates. "We need to use whatever power it has quickly, before they find it." The second option has already occurred to you. If the orb can heal ailments and make crops flourish, what else might it do? Could it somehow free you from the monastery's control permanently? I touched it, you confess. Last night. That's why my back doesn't hurt anymore. That's why the cow's eye healed, I think. Its power somehow spread. Instead of the fear or disapproval you half expected, Eliza's expression shows fascination. You should touch it again, she suggests. But with purpose this time, with a specific need in mind. Like what? She gestures around your modest home. Like this, our tenancy, the monastery's control, the acre they plan to take. Her voice drops even lower. What if we could buy our own land, be free of them entirely? It's the dream of every tenant farmer, to own land outright, to be truly independent. But in Tudor England, social mobility is limited. Peasants remain peasants. Tenants remain tenants. The idea that the orb might change this fundamental reality is simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. Even if we had the money, you say cautiously, the abbot would never sell to us. Not to us, no, Eliza agrees, but there's land beyond the monastery's holdings. Sir William's estate borders their land to the north, and I've heard he's deep in debt from gambling. He might sell a parcel. You stare at her, amazed as always by her practical wisdom, her ability to see paths forward where you see only obstacles. It would take more money than we could earn in 10 years, you remind her. Yes, she says simply, if we were earning it by ordinary means. The implication is clear. The orb has already demonstrated unusual powers. Might it also provide the means to accumulate wealth rapidly? Before you can pursue this tantalizing possibility, there's a commotion outside. The sound of horses and men's voices. You rush to the door, Eliza close behind. 3 riders enter your yard, monastery servants by their dress, though not monks themselves. Behind them comes a cart drawn by a sturdy horse, empty except for shovels and pickaxes. Master Fletcher calls the lead rider, a thin man with a scar across one cheek. "That's me," you reply, stepping forward while signalling Eliza to go back inside. Whatever this is, you don't want her involved. "The abbot sends his compliments," the man says, without dismounting. "We've come to survey the southeast acre for quarrying. Your blood runs cold." "Survey?" But the abbot said the work wouldn't begin until after Candlemas. The man shrugs. "Plans change. We're to mark the boundaries today and begin exploratory digging tomorrow." Tomorrow. Not 3 months from now, as promised. But tomorrow. Your mind races. Is this because Brother Thomas sensed something during his blessing? Have they somehow learned about the orb? "The ground's frozen solid," you protest. "You'll break your picks on it." "Not our concern," the man replies indifferently. "We have our orders." As the men dismount and begin unloading their equipment, you stand helplessly watching. They have the abbot's authority. You have no right to prevent them from accessing any part of the land you rent from the monastery. The orb's discovery has accelerated everything. The abbot's suspicions, the quarrying plans, the search for Roman artifacts. Time is running out faster than you could have imagined. Inside, Eliza meets your gaze with understanding. No words are needed. Tonight, you'll have to use the orb again, not just to heal minor ailments or make the chickens lay more eggs, but to somehow find a way out of the monastery's reach before it's too late. As the short winter day fades toward dusk, the monastery men finish marking out the acre with wooden stakes and rope. It's precisely where you initially found the chest, either a chilling coincidence or evidence that they know more than they're revealing. "We'll return at first light," the scarred man informs you as they prepare to leave. "The abbot himself may accompany us." You nod, not trusting yourself to speak without revealing your fear and anger. They mount their horses and depart, the empty cart rattling behind them over the frozen ruts of the track. Tom joins you, watching them disappear into the gathering darkness. "Tomorrow," he says, grimly. "That doesn't give us much time." "No," you agree. "It doesn't." What will you do? You consider your limited options. Run? Where to, with winter setting in and a family to support? Fight against the monastery's authority, backed by law and custom? Hide the orb somewhere else? They'll just keep searching until they find it. There's only one path forward, though it terrifies you. You must use the orb's power, fully, deliberately, with clear intent. You must ask it for what you truly need. Freedom from the monastery's control. I'm going to solve this, you tell Tom. Tonight. He studies your face, then nods slowly. You're going to use it, aren't you? The thing in the chest. Yes. Is that wise? We don't know what it is, where it came from. We know it heals, you counter. We know it brings abundance. What harm has it done so far? Tom doesn't look convinced. Power always has a price, Will. Always. It's almost the same warning Eliza gave, almost the same warning Father Stephen implied. Yet what choice do you have? The monastery men are coming tomorrow. The abbot himself may accompany them. If they find where the orb was buried, they'll tear your farm apart, looking for it. Sometimes, you say quietly, the price of doing nothing is higher than the price of taking a risk. Tom sighs, recognizing the truth in your words. What do you need from me? Keep watch tonight, you tell him. Wake me if anyone approaches the farm. As night falls and the household settles into its evening routine, simple supper, stories by the fire, prayers before bed, you find yourself watching your family with a new intensity. Agnes teaching Edward a clapping game. Eliza's face in the firelight, lined with work and worry, but still beautiful to you. John laughing at Tom's exaggerated tale of a fishing expedition gone wrong. This small world, these few people, they're everything to you. Whatever power the orb possesses, whatever risk using it entails, you'll face it for them, to secure their future, to free them from the constant fear of poverty, eviction, starvation that haunts every Tudor tenant farmer. Tonight, you'll hold the glowing orb in your hands and ask it for a miracle. The house grows quiet as evening deepens into night. The children are tucked into their truckle bed, their faces smooth and peaceful in sleep. John snores softly on his pallet near the dying fire. Tom sits by the door, awake and watchful as promised. And Eliza lies beside you in the sleeping loft, her eyes open, reflecting the faint moonlight that filters through the small window. I know what you're planning, she whispers, her voice barely audible. I want to be there. You start to protest, to insist she stay safely in bed, but the determination in her eyes stops you. This is her future too, her children's lives at stake. She has every right to witness what happens. All right, you concede, but the children will sleep through, as they always do, she finishes, and Tom will watch. You nod, waiting another hour until John's breathing deepens into the unmistakable rhythm of deep sleep. Then, silently, you and Eliza descend the ladder from the sleeping loft. Tom looks up as you cross to the corner where your strongbox sits. No words are needed. He simply nods, confirming that he'll keep watch while you do what must be done. The strongbox is heavier than usual, or perhaps it's just your imagination, your fear giving it extra weight. You carry it to the table and set it down carefully. Eliza brings a single rushlight, its dim glow barely illuminating your hands as you work the simple lock. Inside, nestled among your few valuables, sits the ancient chest. It looks so ordinary, so innocuous. Just a small wooden box with tarnished metal bindings. Nothing to suggest the power it contains. Is that it? Eliza whispers, her voice tinged with disappointment. She was expecting something more impressive, perhaps, something that looked as magical as its reputed powers. Wait, you tell her, lifting the chest from the box. The moment you raise the lid, golden light spills out, casting your shadows huge and distorted against the walls. Eliza gasps, instinctively stepping back. The orb sits in its velvet nest, pulsing gently with that strange inner radiance that seems alive somehow. "Holy Mother," Eliza breathes, making the sign of the cross. "What is it?" "I don't know," you admit. "Roman, maybe, or older." She stares at it, transfixed by the rhythmic pulsing of the light. "And it healed you? The cow?" "I think so. I touched it last night without really meaning to. Today, everything was different." Eliza looks from the orb to your face, her expression a mixture of wonder and fear. "And now you mean to touch it again? With purpose?" You nod. "We need money. Enough to buy land beyond the monastery's reach, enough to start over where the abbot can't control our lives. It's a breathtaking ambition for a tenant farmer, to leap from renting to owning, from dependence to freedom. In Tudor England, such dramatic rises in station are nearly unheard of. How will it know what we want?" Eliza asks practically. A good question. The orb isn't a wishing well or a fairy godmother from children's tales. It has power, clearly, but how that power is directed remains a mystery. "I'll think about it clearly," you decide. "Hold the thought in my mind while I touch it." Eliza nods, though she looks unconvinced. "Be careful, Will, please." You place the chest on the table and take a deep breath, mentally framing what you want. Money to buy land, freedom from the monastery, security for your family. Not greed, not wealth for its own sake, but independence, the chance to work your own soil, to keep the fruits of your labour. With this intention firmly in mind, you reach into the chest. The orb feels warm beneath your fingertips, vibrating slightly like a living thing. The moment your skin makes contact, the golden light intensifies, washing over your hand, your arm, spreading throughout your body just as it did before. But this time, you don't passively receive the sensation. You actively project your need, your desire for freedom and security, picturing coins, land, a new home beyond the monastery's reach. The light grows brighter, almost blinding now. Eliza steps back further, shielding her eyes. Tom rises from his post by the door, alarm clear on his face. Something is different this time. The warmth becomes heat, not painful, but intense, coursing through your veins like liquid fire. Your vision blurs, the room around you seeming to waver and shift. For a moment, just a heartbeat, you see double, the humble interior of your farmhouse overlaid with something else. A grander space, stone walls instead of timber, a proper fireplace instead of a central hearth, glazed windows through which sunlight streams. Then it's gone, the vision fading as quickly as it appeared. The golden light recedes, drawing back into the orb. You sway on your feet, suddenly dizzy. "Will," Eliza catches your arm, steadying you. "Are you all right? What happened?" You blink, trying to clear your still blurry vision. "I saw something. A different place. A better place." "For us?" she asks, hope edging into her voice. "I think so," you reply, though you're not certain. Was it a glimpse of the future, a promise of what could be, or simply your own desires reflected back at you through the orb's strange power? Before you can puzzle it out further, Tom hisses from the door. "Someone's coming." You quickly close the chest, the golden light vanishing, and shove it back into the strongbox. Eliza blows out the rushlight, plunging the room into darkness except for the faint glow of the banked fire. Through the small window you can see torchlight approaching along the track to your farm, multiple torches moving steadily closer. At this hour, long after curfew, it can only be the monastery's men. But what do they want in the middle of the night? "Get back to bed," you tell Eliza urgently. "Act like you've been asleep." She nods, hurrying to the ladder. Tom retreats to his pallet, feigning sleep. You close and lock the strongbox, returning it to its corner, then take up a position by the fire, as if you'd risen to check the embers. The torches reach your yard. You count 6, maybe 7 figures by their bobbing lights. A hammering comes at your door, loud enough to wake the dead, or at least to wake John, who sits up with a startled grunt. "Fletcher," a voice calls. "Open in the name of the abbot." You cross to the door, heart pounding, and lift the wooden bar. The door swings open to reveal the scarred man from earlier, now accompanied by 2 monks and several armed servants of the monastery. "Master Fletcher," the scarred man says with false politeness, "the abbot requires your presence immediately." "At this hour?" you protest. "My family will remain here under guard," he interrupts. "The abbot's business cannot wait until morning." One of the monks steps forward, Brother Thomas, his thin face ghoulish in the torchlight. "There have been occurrences," he says, studying your face carefully. "Lights seen above your farm, strange phenomena reported by neighbouring tenants." Your blood runs cold. The orb's light must have been visible from outside, brighter this second time, bright enough to be noticed despite the shuttered windows. "I saw nothing," you lie. "We've all been asleep these past hours." Brother Thomas's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Indeed. Then you won't mind accompanying us to explain that to the abbot himself." It's not a request. The armed men make that clear, their hands resting meaningfully on sword hilts. "Let me get my cloak," you say, playing for time to think. "No need," the scarred man says. "The matter is urgent. Come as you are." Eliza appears at the ladder from the sleeping loft, her face a mask of concern, barely visible in the dim light. "What's happening?" she asks, though her eyes tell you she already knows. "The abbot wishes to speak with your husband," Brother Thomas tells her, his tone almost gentle. "He will return by morning, God willing." God willing. The implied threat hangs in the air between you. "I'll be back soon," you tell Eliza, trying to sound more confident than you feel. "Tom knows what needs doing around the farm." She nods, understanding your hidden message. "Tom knows about the orb, about the chest. If you don't return, he'll know to help her hide it. Perhaps take it to Father Stephen." "God be with you," she says as the men lead you outside into the bitter night. No horse is offered. You're expected to walk the 2 miles to the monastery, surrounded by mounted men carrying torches. The journey passes in tense silence, your mind racing with possibilities, none of them good. What do they know? What have they seen? Has someone betrayed you? Or did the orb's light simply attract attention, like a beacon in the dark countryside? The monastery looms against the night sky, its stone walls and towers black silhouettes against the star-filled darkness. Unlike your humble farmhouse, the monastery has glass windows, hundreds of them, and several still glow with candlelight despite the late hour. You're led not to the church or the abbot's residence, but to a small plain building near the outer wall. Inside, a single room contains only a table, 2 chairs, and a crucifix on the wall. One chair is occupied by the abbot himself, his bulk draped in a fur-lined robe, his fingers glittering with rings despite the vow of poverty his order supposedly upholds. "Fletcher," he acknowledges as you're brought before him. "Thank you for coming at this inconvenient hour." As if you had a choice, but you bow respectfully, keeping your expression neutral. "How may I serve you, Father Abbot?" He studies you for a long moment, his small eyes nearly lost in the fleshy folds of his face. "Interesting phenomena have been reported near your farm these past 2 nights, he says, finally. Lights of unusual colour and intensity, animals behaving strangely, even plants growing out of season. Your heart skips. They've noticed the apple tree's unseasonable bud. "I've seen nothing unusual, Father," you reply, the lie bitter on your tongue. "No?" The abbot raises his eyebrows. "Brother Thomas observed a chicken laying 3 eggs in one day. Most unusual, wouldn't you agree? So they've been watching more closely than you realized." Observing the small miracles the orb has produced around your farm. "God works in mysterious ways," you offer, falling back on the standard Tudor explanation for anything inexplicable. "Indeed he does," the abbot agrees silkily, "but so does the devil." The accusation, for that's what it is, however obliquely stated, hangs in the air between you. Witchcraft, demonic influence, crimes punishable by death. "I'm a God-fearing Christian," you say, forcing your voice to remain steady. "My family attends Mass faithfully. We pay our tithes." "Yes, yes." The abbot waves a dismissive hand. "Your piety is not in question. Your discoveries, however, are another matter." So, they know about the orb, or suspect at least. But how much do they know? How specific is their information? "I'm a simple farmer," you say carefully. "I discover turnips and stones in my fields, nothing more." The abbot's smile is cold. "Come now, Fletcher, we both know that's not true. Roman artifacts have been found in this region before, items of unusual properties." You say nothing, neither confirming nor denying. "Such items," the abbot continues, "are dangerous in the wrong hands. They contain powers that simple folk cannot comprehend or control, powers that rightfully belong under the Church's guidance." Again, you remain silent. Any response seems dangerous. The abbot sighs, as if disappointed by your lack of cooperation. "Brother Thomas," he calls, and the thin monk steps forward from the shadows. "Show him." Brother Thomas produces a small cloth bundle from within his robes. Unwrapping it carefully, he reveals a fragment of what appears to be crystal or glass, a curved piece that might once have been part of a sphere, an orb, broken, dulled, its power clearly long gone, but unmistakably similar to the one hidden in your strongbox. "This was found 60 years ago," the abbot explains, "in a field not 5 miles from your farm. The tenant who discovered it attempted to use its power for personal gain. He did not understand what he was dealing with." "What happened to him?" you ask, though you suspect you already know. "He disappeared," the abbot replies simply, "along with his family. The orb was found broken, its power spent. Only this fragment remains." Is it a true story or a fabrication meant to frighten you into confession? Impossible to tell, but the fragment looks genuine enough, and it matches Father Stephen's tales of farmers who found orbs and then vanished. If someone were to find such an item today, the abbot continues, watching your face closely, the Church would naturally take possession of it, for safety, but the finder would be generously rewarded. A bribe, then, or a trap, perhaps both. "How generously?" you ask, playing along while your mind races ahead, searching for a way out of this dangerous conversation. The abbot smiles, sensing weakness. Land, perhaps, a freehold farm beyond the monastery's current holdings, freedom from tithes for a decade, a considerable sum of money. Everything you want, everything you asked the orb for, offered freely. The temptation is powerful. But can you trust the abbot to keep such promises once the orb is in his possession? "A generous offer," you say non-committally. "If someone had found such an item." "Indeed." The abbot's smile fades. "But my generosity has limits, Fletcher, as does my patience." The threat is clear now. Cooperate and be rewarded. Resist and face the consequences. Accusations of witchcraft, perhaps, or simply eviction from your farm. In the depths of winter, that could be a death sentence for your family. I need time to consider, you say, playing for any advantage, to pray for guidance. The abbot studies you, then nods slightly. Very well, until tomorrow. My men will escort you home now and return at midday for your answer. He leans forward, his voice hardening. Choose wisely, Fletcher, for your family's sake. The journey back to your farm passes in a blur, your mind too full of fears and calculations to notice the cold or the silent men surrounding you. By the time you reach your door, dawn is breaking, the eastern sky lightening to pale grey. Eliza is waiting, her face tight with worry. The children still sleep, but Tom and John are up, pretending to go about normal morning chores while casting anxious glances your way. What happened? Eliza asks the moment the monastery men are gone, their torches receding down the track. You tell her everything. The abbot's accusations, the fragment of a broken orb, the offer of land and money in exchange for surrendering your discovery. Can we trust him? She asks when you finish. No, you reply without hesitation. Once he has the orb, any promises he's made will be forgotten, or worse, he'll accuse us of witchcraft anyway to ensure our silence. Tom joins you at the table, his weathered face grave. Then what? They'll be back at midday. If you refuse to give it up, he doesn't need to finish. The consequences of defying the abbot are all too clear. We need to hide it somewhere they'll never look, Eliza suggests. Or what? She meets your gaze steadily. Or we use it again, now, with both of us touching it. Ask for what we really need, not just money, but immediate escape, a way out. It's a desperate plan, but you're running out of options. The orb has already shown it responds to deliberate intent. Perhaps with both of you focusing your will, its power might provide some solution you haven't yet imagined. It's worth trying, you decide, but the children should be part of it too. If we're asking for escape, we need to be clear it's for all of us. Eliza nods, going to wake Agnes and Edward. They come down the ladder sleepy and confused, but obediently gather at the table as instructed. We're going to pray together, you tell them, a half-truth that will protect them from the knowledge of what you're really doing. For God's guidance in a difficult time. Tom positions himself by the door again, keeping watch. John, sensing that something significant is happening but not privy to the full truth, busies himself with feeding the fire. You retrieve the strongbox, unlock it, and remove the ancient chest. The children's eyes widen as you open it, the golden light spilling out to illuminate your small family gathered around the table. It's beautiful, Agnes whispers, reaching toward the glowing orb. Don't touch, you caution, catching her hand. Not yet. First, we all need to think very clearly about what we want, about being safe together, somewhere the monastery can't reach us. Edward nods solemnly, too young to fully understand, but willing to play along with what he perceives as a game or a special prayer. Now, you say, looking at Eliza, we'll all hold hands, and when I count to 3, Mama and I will touch the orb together while you two keep thinking about us all being safe. The children nod, taking the ritual seriously in the way that young ones often do, sensing the gravity in their parents' manner without fully comprehending its cause. 1, you count, heart pounding. 2, riders coming, Tom hisses from the door. Fast. Your first instinct is to close the chest, hide the orb away again, but if the monastery men are already returning, hours ahead of the agreed time, it means the abbot has lost patience. They're coming to search your farm, to take the orb by force if necessary. There's no more time for caution. 3, you say, and grasp the orb firmly with your right hand while Eliza does the same with her left. The golden light explodes outward, far brighter than before, filling the small room with radiance so intense it seems to penetrate your very being. The heat rushes through you again, but stronger this time, almost unbearable. Your vision blurs, then doubles as it did before. The familiar surroundings of your home overlaid with somewhere else, somewhere stone-walled and sunlit. This time, though, the double vision doesn't fade. Instead, the stone-walled place becomes more solid, more real, while your farmhouse seems to grow transparent, like morning mist burning away in sunshine. Will, Eliza's voice sounds distant, frightened. What's happening? You try to answer, but find you can't speak. The light grows brighter still, pulsing in rhythm with your heartbeat, with Eliza's, with the children's, 4 beats slightly out of sync, gradually aligning into one single powerful throb. Through the window, you see the monastery riders entering your yard. Brother Thomas at their head, his thin face contorted with some strong emotion. They dismount, running toward your door. Too late. The farmhouse has nearly faded completely now, the stone-walled place almost fully real around you. The last thing you see of your old life is the door bursting open, Brother Thomas's outstretched hand reaching toward the chest, his mouth open in a silent shout of denial or triumph. Then everything shifts. The light flares one final time, so bright you're forced to close your eyes against its intensity. When you open them again, the farmhouse is gone. So are the monastery men. You stand with Eliza and the children in a sunlit room with stone walls, a proper fireplace, and glazed windows through which warm summer light streams. The orb lies on a polished wooden table between you. Its light now just a gentle glow, pulsing slower, fainter, as if tired from its exertion. "Papa," Agnes's voice trembles with confusion and fear. "Where are we?" You look around, trying to make sense of your surroundings. The room is larger than your entire farmhouse, well furnished with carved chairs, woven tapestries on the walls, a proper wooden floor beneath your feet instead of packed earth. Through the windows you can see rolling countryside, fields of ripening wheat, orchards heavy with fruit. In the distance a small village nestles in a valley, its church tower a familiar landmark. That's our village, you realise with shock. St. Mary's Church, but the countryside around it is different, more prosperous, more cultivated. The forest that once dominated the northern approach now reduced to a small woodland. "It can't be," Eliza says, moving to the window. "Everything's changed. The fields, the trees, the season," you add, noting the summer fullness of the landscape that was winter barren just moments ago. "It's not December anymore." As if responding to your observation, the orb's glow fades further, becoming barely perceptible in the bright room. A noise from outside draws your attention, the sound of horses approaching. For a moment, fear grips you again. Have the monastery men somehow followed you to this strange place? But the riders who appear on the track leading to this stone house are not monks or their servants. They're ordinary farmers by their dress, come to consult with who? "Master Fletcher," one calls up to the window. "Have you decided about the new mill? The guild is meeting this afternoon to vote." They're addressing you, as if you belong here, as if this place is yours. Eliza joins you at the window, her face a mixture of wonder and confusion. "Will," she whispers, "I think we're home. But how? Where? When?" She shakes her head, as lost as you are. Then her gaze falls on a wooden plaque mounted beside the fireplace, the kind wealthy merchants or landowners might display to commemorate the building of their home. Fletcher House, it reads, established 1503. 1503, you read aloud, struggling to make sense of it. But it's 1500 now. Is it? Eliza asks softly. Or has the orb sent us forward, given us what we asked for, safety, freedom from the monastery, land of our own? But 3 years later than we expected, the orb pulses once more, very faintly, then goes dark. Not broken like the fragment the abbot showed you, but dormant, its power spent, at least for now. As you stand there, struggling to comprehend what has happened, memories begin to surface in your mind. Memories of events you haven't yet experienced. Building this house, buying this land, the monastery's power broken not by your escape, but by the king's proclamations against church landholdings. They feel like dreams at first, hazy and indistinct, but with each passing moment they grow clearer, more solid, fitting themselves into your mind as if they'd always been there. You remember the 3 years that haven't happened yet, and gradually the confusion and fear fade, replaced by a sense of rightness, of belonging. This is indeed your home, a home your future self built after the orb's power set in motion events that would unfold over years rather than in an instant. We did it, Eliza says wonderingly, the same realization dawning in her eyes. Or we will do it. The orb didn't just transport us, it changed everything. The children adapt faster than either of you, already exploring their new surroundings with excited exclamations over toys and clothes they've never seen before, but somehow recognize as their own. Outside, the farmers wait patiently for your response about the mill. A matter of importance to you in this new life where you're clearly a person of consequence in the community. We'll be down in a moment, you call to them, surprising yourself with the confidence in your voice. Turning back to Eliza, you see her holding the now dormant orb, studying its surface with a mixture of gratitude and awe. Should we hide it, she asks, in case its power returns someday? You consider this, weighing the risks against the possibilities. The orb has given you everything you asked for, not instantly, but through changes to the course of events that allowed you to achieve these things through means that will appear natural to everyone but you. Yes, you decide, somewhere safe for the future. As you take the orb from her hands, your fingers brush against its surface. For just a moment you think you see a faint flicker of golden light deep within the crystal, a hint that its power isn't gone forever, merely resting. A promise, perhaps, or a warning. Only time will tell. The summer sun hangs low in the western sky, casting long shadows across your new lands. You stand at the edge of a wheat field, your wheat field, watching as workers cut the last of the day's harvest. Their backs bent with labour, scythes flashing in the golden light. They look no different from the workers you once were, yet everything has changed. 3 days have passed since the orb brought you here, to this place, this time, this life. 3 days of adjustment, of memories settling like dust after a storm, of learning who you are now while remembering who you were then. Still getting used to it? A familiar voice asks. You turn to find Tom approaching, a clay jug of small beer in his hand. His face is the same, weathered, lined, good-humoured, but his clothes are better, his bearing straighter, no longer just a farmhand. He's your steward now, overseeing the daily running of Fletcher Farm. Trying to, you admit, accepting the beer with a nod of thanks. Everything feels like a dream sometimes. Then I look around and it's all so solid, so real. Tom chuckles. You've been saying that since you bought this place last year. Can't believe it's really mine, you kept saying, last year. According to the memories slowly filling in the blank spaces in your mind, you purchased this land from Sir William Hertford's estate after he lost heavily at dice to the Duke of Suffolk. 15 acres of prime farmland, a stone house, and rights to common grazing, all for a sum that would have been impossible for a tenant farmer to amass. Except you weren't just a tenant farmer anymore. Somehow, in the 3 years the orb skipped you across, you had become a wool merchant of modest but growing wealth. "How did I do it, Tom?" you ask quietly, keeping your voice low though the workers are too far away to hear. "How did I go from the monastery's tenant to this?" You gesture at the field, the stone house on the hill, the small barn where your horses, plural, a luxury beyond imagining in your previous life, are stabled. Tom gives you an odd look. You've been asking such questions for 3 days now, and while he's loyal enough not to question your strange behaviour, his patience has limits. "You know how," he says, a hint of exasperation in his tone. "The orb changed things, not all at once like we thought it would, but bit by bit. First, the monastery's sheep started dying, hundreds of them, while ours thrived. Then the king issued that proclamation, limiting church landholdings. Then Sir William needed quick money and was willing to sell cheap." He shakes his head in wonder. "It all just fell into place, like the hand of God was guiding every step." The hand of God, or the power of the orb. In this new reality, Tom knows about the orb, was part of its discovery, but he doesn't seem to share your experience of having jumped across 3 years in an instant. For him, those years happened normally, one day at a time. "And John," you ask, "another gap in your knowledge. Where is he now?" "At Oxford still," Tom replies, as if this is common knowledge. "The scholarship you arranged starts Michaelmas term. Smart lad, always knew he had more in his head than farming. Oxford, a tenant farmer's orphaned help boy, now a university scholar. Another miracle the orb has somehow engineered." Or Master Fletcher. One of the harvesters approaches, cap in hand, a young man you don't recognise but who clearly knows you. "We've finished the south field. Shall we start on the east tomorrow or move to the barley?" You hesitate, uncertain of the proper answer in this unfamiliar life. Tom smoothly intervenes. "The barley, Adam. It's ready, and there's rain coming end of the week." The young man nods respectfully to you both and returns to his fellows. You give Tom a grateful look. "I'd be lost without you," you admit. He smiles, the setting sun highlighting the network of wrinkles around his eyes. "You've said that before too, usually after too much ale at the harvest home." As twilight deepens, you walk back toward the stone house that is now your home. Unlike your old farmhouse with its single room and sleeping loft, this is a proper house with multiple chambers, a hall for eating and daily business, a separate kitchen, even a small solar where you and Eliza have a real bed with a feather mattress instead of straw. The windows, real glass, not just shuttered openings, glow with the warm light of rushlights and candles. Not the single dim rushlight you could afford before, but several, and even beeswax candles for special occasions. Such luxury would have been unimaginable in your previous life. Inside, the scene is both strange and familiar. Eliza moves about the kitchen with the same efficient grace she always had, but now she directs a young maidservant instead of doing everything herself. Agnes sits at the table, practicing her letters on a slate. Another luxury, as education for girls is rare in Tudor England. Edward plays with carved wooden soldiers on the floor, more elaborate toys than the simple sticks and pebbles he once had. "Papa," Edward jumps up at your entrance, running to hug your legs. At least the children's affection is unchanged, a constant in this altered world. "The harvest is going well?" Eliza asks, looking up from the pot she's stirring. Something rich and savoury bubbles within. A meat stew, with more than just the occasional scrap of salt pork. Your new status means meat several times a week, not just on feast days. "Very well," you confirm. "Tom says the barley is ready too." She nods, satisfied, then gestures for the maidservant to continue stirring while she wipes her hands on her apron. "Come," she says to you, "there's something I need to show you." Curious, you follow her up the narrow stairs to the solar, your private chamber where the orb now lies, hidden beneath a loose floorboard. But she doesn't stop there. Instead, she leads you to a small room adjacent to it, one you haven't fully explored in your 3 days of adjustment. Inside, shelves line the walls, holding ledgers, rolls of parchment, small cloth bags and various boxes. A writing desk stands beneath the window, equipped with quills, ink pots and fine vellum. Your counting room, Eliza explains, seeing your confusion. Where you manage the business. The business. According to your gradually assembling memories, you are no longer just a farmer, but a wool merchant and broker. You buy fleeces from smaller farmers, arrange sales to weavers and cloth merchants, take commissions on larger transactions between monasteries and foreign buyers. "I need to understand all this," you say, gesturing at the intimidating array of account books. "If I'm to maintain our position." Eliza's expression softens. "You will. The memories are returning, aren't they? Each day a little more." You nod. It's true. With each passing hour, the fog of confusion lifts slightly. Names, faces, transactions, relationships, they're filtering back into your mind, as if they were always there but temporarily mislaid. "And for you?" you ask. "The same?" "Yes," she confirms. "This morning I couldn't remember where we kept the best plates. By midday I knew without thinking." She smiles wryly, "though I still reach for the sleeping loft ladder sometimes before remembering we have proper stairs." You both laugh, the shared joke easing some of the strangeness. This adjustment, learning to be wealthy after a lifetime of poverty, would be challenging enough without the additional complication of having arrived here through the orb's mysterious power. "What of the monastery?" you ask, moving to the window. From here, you can just see the distant towers of the abbey silhouetted against the darkening sky. "What happened after we left?" Eliza sits at the desk, her fingers absently tracing patterns on the polished wood. "From what I've pieced together, they searched the farm for days, tore up floorboards, dug up fields, found nothing, of course." She looks up at you. "As far as the world knows, we simply moved away when our tenancy ended, sold our animals to another farmer and left to seek better opportunities." "And the abbot?" "Still there, though his power is much reduced." Her expression turns grimly satisfied. "The king has been taxing the church heavily. Rumour says more changes are coming, perhaps even dissolution of some smaller monasteries." This aligns with your emerging memories. King Henry VIII, once a staunch defender of the Catholic Church, has been growing increasingly frustrated with papal authority. The dissolution of the monasteries, which your original timeline self could not have predicted, is indeed coming, though it won't begin in earnest for several more years. "So the orb didn't just change our fortunes," you muse. "It placed us perfectly to benefit from changes already beginning to happen." "Clever, isn't it?" Eliza says with a small smile. "No one can claim witchcraft or sorcery when our rise appears so natural. A combination of good fortune, changing politics, and your own business acumen." A knock at the door interrupts your conversation. Agnes pokes her head in, her face serious in the way children get when entrusted with important messages. "Supper's ready," she announces, "and Father Stephen is here." Your heart lifts at the news. Father Stephen, the village priest who showed you the old painting, who hinted at the orb's nature without directly acknowledging it, is still part of your life then. Downstairs, the priest waits by the fire, his substantial form unchanged. Though his robes are perhaps a little less worn than you remember, his face brightens at your appearance. Will Fletcher, he booms, his voice as hearty as ever. Prosperous as always, I see. God continues to bless your endeavours. You clasp his offered hand warmly. And yours, father, you're well? Well enough for a man of my years and appetites? He chuckles, patting his ample belly. Though these new winds blowing from London make life interesting for a country priest. He's referring, you realise, to the early stirrings of the Reformation, the religious changes that will eventually transform England from a Catholic to a Protestant nation, changes that, in your original timeline, were just rumours but are now gathering momentum. Over supper, a meal that would have seemed a feast in your previous life, with fresh bread, meat stew, cheese, and even preserved fruits, Father Stephen regales the children with tales of saints and local folklore, but once they're sent upstairs to prepare for bed, his manner becomes more serious. I've heard interesting news from London, he says, lowering his voice though the servants have been dismissed for the evening. The king is considering a formal break with Rome. You and Eliza exchange glances. This is significant news with far-reaching implications for everyone in England, especially those connected to the monasteries. When, you ask? Not immediately, the priest replies, but within a year or two, perhaps. The Queen has failed to provide a male heir, and the king's eye has wandered to that Boleyn girl. He makes a face. Politics and religion make dangerous bedfellows, but there it is. And the monasteries? Eliza asks, voicing the question in both your minds. Father Stephen looks troubled. Their days are numbered, I fear. The king needs money for his wars and his court. The church's wealth tempts him greatly. He takes a deep draught of ale before continuing. Those with ties to monastery lands would be wise to diversify their interests. It's a warning, diplomatically phrased but clear enough. Your wool business, while no longer directly dependent on the monastery as it once was, still involves transactions with church properties. If those properties are seized by the crown, contracts could be voided, debts unpaid. I've been considering expanding into cloth, you say, the words coming from some part of your mind that seems to know this new life better than you consciously do. Working with weavers directly, perhaps even setting up a small workshop. Father Stephen nods approvingly. Wise, very wise. Cloth will always be needed, regardless of who holds the land or collects the tithes. He glances around, then leans closer. And how is your other matter, the Roman artifact? So he knows about the orb in this timeline too. You choose your words carefully, secure and quiet for now. The priest seems to understand your meaning. Good, good. Best it remains so, especially in these changing times. The church grows nervous about ancient things. As the new learning spreads, what was once merely unusual might now be deemed dangerous. After Father Stephen departs, full of food and armed with a small purse of coins for his parish poor box, another sign of your changed circumstances, you and Eliza check on the sleeping children before retiring to your own chamber. The solar feels almost decadently spacious after the cramped sleeping loft of your previous life. The bed is wide enough for both of you to stretch out without touching, though habit and affection still draw you close together. It's really ours, Eliza whispers in the darkness, echoing your earlier words to Tom. All of this, not just borrowed or rented, but ours. Ours, you agree, the word still strange on your tongue. In Tudor England, true ownership is rare for common folk. Even most landowners hold their property at the pleasure of some greater lord. But according to the deed in your counting room, this land and house belong to you outright, a freehold, the most secure form of tenure possible. Do you think it will last, she asks, voicing the fear that has lurked at the edges of your mind? Or will the orb's magic fade? Will we wake tomorrow back in the old farmhouse with the monastery men pounding at the door? You consider this. The orb remains dormant beneath the floorboards, its golden light extinguished or at least deeply banked. Has its power been spent completely in this massive change to your lives, or is it merely resting, capable of further miracles, or perhaps of reversing what it's done? I don't think so, you say finally. This feels permanent. As if we've truly lived these 3 years, made these changes through our own efforts, even if we don't remember all of it yet. She seems reassured, nestling closer against your side. Good. I don't want to go back. Not ever. You don't either, though part of you wonders about the moral implications of what's happened. Have you stolen this life from some other version of yourselves? Erased 3 years that you should have had to work through day by day? Or was this always your destiny? The orb merely a catalyst for what would have happened anyway? Such philosophical questions have no place in the practical Tudor mind, however. You push them aside, focusing instead on the immediate reality. Your family is safe, prosperous, free from the monastery's control. Whatever power brought you here, you're grateful for it. Morning brings a new routine that's both strange and increasingly familiar. Instead of rising before dawn to labour in your fields, you wake with the sun to oversee others doing that work. Breakfast is taken at a proper table, served by the same young maidservant, Mary, your recovering memory supplies, who helped in the kitchen last night. The wool merchants from Bristol arrive today, Eliza reminds you as you eat. Will you show them the new clip from Hartwell's flock? You nod, though internally you're panicking slightly. What new clip? Who is Hartwell? But even as these questions form, answers rise to meet them, memories surfacing like fish in a pond. Hartwell is a farmer to the north who produces particularly fine wool from Cotswold sheep. You bought his entire clip 3 weeks ago and have been storing it in your barn until the Bristol merchants arrive. Yes, you say with more confidence than you feel. The quality is exceptional this year. We should get a good price. Eliza smiles, clearly pleased with your response. She too is adapting to this new reality, her practical nature embracing the improved circumstances, while her keen mind catalogues the differences between then and now. After breakfast, you walk the boundaries of your property, a Tudor landowner's regular ritual. 15 acres feels vast compared to the 5 you once rented, though it's modest by gentry standards. The land is good, well-drained, south-facing slopes for the crops. A small stream providing water, enough trees for building repairs and firewood. Workers nod respectfully as you pass. Some you recognise from your previous life, villagers who once laboured alongside you for the monastery and now work your fields for wages. Others are new faces, yet increasingly familiar as your memories continue to align with this new reality. At the far boundary, where your land meets what was once monastery property, you find something unexpected, a small shrine set into the hollow of an ancient oak tree, a crude wooden cross, some dried flowers, a few small offerings, pebbles, feathers, a little carved figure. Been there for generations, says a voice behind you. You turn to find an old woman gathering herbs along the boundary hedge. Her face is vaguely familiar, the village wise woman your memory supplies, known for her knowledge of healing plants and midwifery. What is it? You ask, studying the shrine with curiosity. A crossing place, she replies cryptically, where the old world and the new meet. Some say the Romans built a temple here to gods whose names are long forgotten. You look more closely at the little shrine. Among the Christian symbols and offerings are older things, a small stone carving that might be Roman, symbols etched into the bark of the tree that resemble no alphabet you know. Is it safe? You ask, unsure how to phrase your real question. Is this place connected to the orb somehow? The old woman chuckles. Safe enough if approached with respect. dangerous to those who destroy old ways for profit. She gives you a knowing look, like some I could name, with their quarries and their taxes. She means the monastery, you realize. In this timeline, as in your original one, the abbot's plan to quarry tenant lands has created resentment among the local people. I've no plans to disturb it, you assure her. Good. She nods approvingly. The Fletcher name is respected hereabouts, known for fair dealing and keeping to the middle path. She gathers her herbs and shuffles away, calling over her shoulder, "Some paths run deeper than others, mind. Some go places a body might not expect." You watch her go, wondering if she knows more than she's saying. Does she suspect something about the orb, about your sudden rise in station, or is she simply being cryptic in the way of old folk who enjoy mystifying their younger neighbours? Back at the house, you find visitors have arrived. 2 well-dressed men with the prosperous look of successful merchants, the Bristol wool buyers, right on schedule. Your steward, Tom, has already shown them to the barn where Hartwell's wool is stored. Master Fletcher, the older of the two, greets you. "Fine clip you've got this year. Very fine indeed. Worth 17 marks per sack, I'd say," adds his companion. You know, without quite knowing how you know, that this is a low offer. The wool is worth 20 at least. 22, you counter confidently. "It's the finest Cotswold clip I've seen in 3 years. The merchants exchange glances. 20, the older one offers, "and we'll take the entire lot." "Done," you agree, extending your hand to seal the bargain. As they count out coins from heavy purses, you marvel at how naturally you've slipped into this role of wool broker, a role you never trained for, never apprenticed to learn, yet somehow know intimately thanks to the orb's manipulation of time and circumstance. The transaction complete, you invite the merchants to dine before they depart. It's both good hospitality and good business. Relationships matter in the wool trade, and a well-fed customer is more likely to return. Over dinner, conversation turns to news from London and beyond. The merchants who travel widely are valuable sources of information in a world without newspapers or rapid communication. "The king's getting impatient with Rome," the older merchant confides. "Word is he's already consulting lawyers about ways to set aside the queen." "And the monasteries?" you ask, recalling Father Stephen's warning from the previous night. The younger merchant leans forward. "Thomas Cromwell has the king's ear now, and he's no friend to the church. They say he's drawing up plans for a great survey of all monastery lands and wealth." This is significant news. Thomas Cromwell, the King's chief minister, will indeed orchestrate the dissolution of the monasteries, the greatest transfer of land and wealth in English history since the Norman conquest. Properties that have belonged to the church for centuries will be seized by the crown and sold to eager buyers among the gentry and merchant classes. "When will this survey begin?" you ask, trying to sound merely curious rather than keenly interested. "Next year," they say, "or the year after." The merchant shrugs. "These things move at their own pace, but change is coming, Master Fletcher. Those who prepare will prosper, those who cling to old ways." He makes an eloquent gesture of something falling. After the merchants depart with promises to return for your autumn clip, you find yourself drawn to the small chamber where the orb lies hidden. Kneeling, you pry up the loose floorboard and lift out the ancient chest. The orb within remains dark, its golden light extinguished or deeply banked. Yet as you hold it, you fancy you can feel a faint warmth, a subtle vibration, or perhaps it's merely your imagination, your desire for confirmation that its power remains. Did the orb somehow know about the coming dissolution? Did it place you and your family precisely at this moment in time to benefit from the massive changes about to sweep through England? The thought is both comforting and unsettling. Comforting to think your good fortune is part of some greater plan, unsettling to consider the implications of such foreknowledge. As you carefully replace the orb in its hiding place, a shadow falls across the doorway. You look up to find Eliza watching you, her expression thoughtful. "Do you ever wonder," she asks softly, "if we did the right thing, using its power this way?" The question echoes your own earlier doubts. "I've wondered," you admit. "But then I look at the children, at the security we have now, and I can't bring myself to regret it." She nods, coming to kneel beside you as you replace the floorboard. "Nor can I. Yet sometimes I dream of the old farmhouse, of simpler days when our greatest worry was having enough turnips to last the winter." She smiles wryly. "Strange to miss poverty, isn't it?" "Not poverty," you correct her gently. "Simplicity. Life is more complicated now. With more to lose," she adds, giving voice to the fear that has lurked at the edges of your new prosperity. You take her hand, the same work-roughened hand you've held through 16 years of marriage, through childbirth and loss, through hunger and cold. "Whatever comes, you promise, we'll face it together, as we always have." As evening approaches, you stand at the window of your counting room, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. Fields that were once monastery land stretch before you, now worked by farmers who, like your former self, pay rent to a distant landlord and dream of something better. The orb has given you that something better, not through obvious magic or miraculous transformation, but through subtle shifts in circumstance that appear to outside eyes entirely natural. A series of fortunate events, good business decisions, being in the right place at the right time. Yet questions remain. Why you? Why was the orb buried in your field, waiting centuries for discovery? What power created it, and to what purpose? And perhaps most pressingly, is its work truly finished or merely paused? As darkness falls over your new lands, your new life, these questions hang unanswered in the summer air. But for now at least you have achieved what once seemed impossible: freedom, security, a future for your children brighter than any a Tudor tenant farmer could reasonably hope for. Whether the orb's power proves blessing or curse in the long run remains to be seen. But tonight, as you join your family for the evening meal in a home that is truly yours, you can't help but feel profoundly grateful for its golden light and the changes it has wrought. Autumn paints the countryside in shades of gold and russet. Smoke rises from cottage chimneys carrying the scent of burning apple wood. The harvest is in, the fields lie stubbled and bare, and the first frost has silvered the meadows in the early mornings. 4 months have passed since your arrival in this new life. 4 months of adjustment, of memories filling in, of learning to be Master Fletcher rather than just Will the tenant farmer. Today is Michaelmas Fair, one of the most important market days in the Tudor calendar. The whole village has gathered on the green stalls and tents erected in haphazard rows, the atmosphere festive despite the serious business being conducted. You move through the crowd with newfound confidence, no longer startled when villagers bow their heads respectfully or call you master. Your wool business has flourished through the summer months, and the purse at your belt is heavier than you once could have imagined. "Papa, look!" Agnes tugs at your sleeve, pointing toward a merchant selling fabrics. "Green silk. Can I have some for a new kirtle, please?" The fact that your daughter even knows what silk is, let alone asks for it, is testament to how far you've come. In your previous life, homespun wool was the height of luxury. Perhaps, you say, not committing either way. Wealth has changed many things, but your innate caution remains. Let's see what your mother thinks. Eliza stands at a nearby stall, examining a selection of spices, another luxury once far beyond your means. Now she discusses saffron and cinnamon with the easy confidence of a woman accustomed to such purchases. Agnes wants silk, you tell her, nodding toward the fabric merchant. Eliza considers this. A small piece for trim, perhaps. Not a whole kirtle. She's growing too fast. Agnes pouts, but doesn't argue. Even in your new position, Tudor children are expected to obey without question. Master Fletcher, a hearty voice booms across the green. Sir William Hertford, the minor nobleman from whom you purchased your land, approaches with the slightly unsteady gait of a man who's already visited the ale tent. Prospering as always, I see. You bow slightly, less deeply than you would to a greater lord, but enough to acknowledge his higher status. Sir William, I trust you're well? Well enough, though my purse is lighter than I'd like. He laughs too loudly. Those dice still roll against me. Sir William's gambling habits are well known locally. It was his losses that forced him to sell the land you now own, a transaction that, in this timeline, happened over a year ago. Perhaps Providence suggests a change in pastimes, you offer diplomatically. He waves a dismissive hand. Providence has nothing to do with it. Skill and luck, that's all. His bleary eyes focus on you more directly. Speaking of which, your luck has been remarkable these past years, Fletcher, from tenant to trader in a single bound. There's something in his tone, a hint of suspicion, perhaps, or simple envy, that makes you uneasy. Hard work and careful investment, you reply, the explanation you've given countless times when asked about your rise in fortune. Sir William clearly isn't convinced. Strange things happen in this world, strange discoveries. He leans closer, his breath wine-soured. I've heard tales from the monastery about Roman artifacts with unusual properties, about tenant farmers who found such things and suddenly prospered. Your blood runs cold. Has word of the orb somehow spread? Has the abbot been talking about his suspicions even after all this time? Just tales, you say, keeping your voice steady. Folk always want to believe in magical solutions rather than acknowledge the virtues of industry and thrift. Sir William studies your face, then barks a laugh. Industry and thrift, you sound like my steward. He claps you on the shoulder. Keep your secrets, Fletcher. We all have them. With that cryptic comment, he staggers away toward the ale tent. Eliza, who overheard the exchange, moves to your side. Do you think he knows something? She asks quietly. Suspects, perhaps, you reply. But he has no proof, and his reputation for drunken fancies doesn't lend credibility to any accusations he might make. Still, the encounter leaves you unsettled. If Sir William has heard rumours about the orb, others may have as well. The secret that has transformed your life may not be as secure as you believed. As the day progresses, you try to push these concerns aside and enjoy the fare. Edward rides the hobby horse, a simple wooden contraption that delights him as much as any modern carousel would delight a child. Agnes, consoled with the promise of silk trim, watches a troupe of travelling players perform a morality play on a makeshift stage. You're examining a fine leather saddle, another potential purchase that would have been unthinkable in your previous life, when Tom finds you, his expression urgent. There's a monk asking for you, he says quietly. By the church. From Merton Abbey, you ask, immediately tense. Tom nods. Brother Thomas. The name sends a chill through you. Brother Thomas, the thin, intense monk who blessed your fields, who was part of the abbot's inner circle, who reached for the orb in the final moment before it transported you to this new life. Did he say what he wants? Only that he must speak with you on a matter of importance. Tom glances around to ensure no one is listening. Should I send him away? You consider this. Your instinct is to avoid any connection to your past, to the monastery that once controlled your life. But curiosity and concern win out. No, I'll speak with him. Where's Eliza? With the children, watching the players. Good, let her enjoy the performance. No need to worry her yet. You hand the saddle back to the disappointed merchant. Later, perhaps. The church stands a little apart from the fairground, its square tower casting a long shadow across the graveyard. Brother Thomas waits by the lich gate, still thin but somehow diminished from your memory of him. His robes, once immaculate, show signs of wear, and his face has the hollow look of a man who doesn't get enough to eat. Master Fletcher, he greets you, his voice the same soft, precise tone you remember. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Brother Thomas, you don't offer your hand. What brings a monk of Merton Abbey to our humble fare? A faint smile crosses his face. Humility is a virtue you practice less visibly these days, I think. He gestures toward the church. Might we speak inside? What I have to say is not for general hearing. Wary but intrigued, you follow him into the cool dimness of the church interior. The same whitewashed walls, the same simple altar, the same painting of the Roman with the glowing orb half hidden in the corner. Nothing has changed here, though everything has changed for you. Brother Thomas walks to the font, dipping his fingers in the holy water and crossing himself before turning back to you. You vanished, he says without preamble. You and your family, the night we came for the orb. So he does know. You say nothing, waiting for him to continue. At first we thought you had simply fled, taken the orb and run. He paces slowly before the altar, but then reports came that you were here, prospering, as if nothing unusual had happened, as if you had always been a wool merchant of means, never a struggling tenant. People improve their circumstances, you say non-committally. It's not unheard of. In a matter of moments, Brother Thomas raises an eyebrow, between when I entered your farmhouse door and when I reached your table, for in that span, that heartbeat, you were gone. Not fled, gone. You hadn't realized he'd witnessed the actual moment of transition. You remember his outstretched hand, his mouth open in a shout, but you assumed he arrived just as the orb's power took effect. The fact that he saw you vanish complicates matters. I'm not sure what you think you saw, you hedge. Times were chaotic then. Memory plays tricks. Does it? He steps closer. Then perhaps it's also my faulty memory that recalls a golden light brighter than the sun, a chest of ancient design, a crystalline orb. There's no point in further denial. What do you want, Brother Thomas, to drag me back to the abbot, to accuse me of witchcraft? To your surprise, he shakes his head. No, I no longer serve the abbot. This is unexpected. You've left the monastery? Not by choice. His mouth twists bitterly. I was expelled for obsession with pagan artifacts, for questioning the abbot's authority, for suggesting that perhaps the church is not the only rightful guardian of ancient powers. You study him with new interest. The same things you once hinted to me. Yes, he meets your gaze directly. I believed then, as I believe now, that certain objects of power belong not to institutions, but to those who discover them, those who can use them wisely. And the abbot disagreed. Brother Thomas laughs softly, most emphatically, especially after you vanished with the orb he coveted so desperately. He gestures around the empty church. So here I am, cast out, seeking the only person who might understand what I've sacrificed and why. Despite your caution, you feel a reluctant sympathy for the man. To lose his place in the monastery, his entire identity, his security, is no small thing in Tudor England, where social position is everything. What exactly do you want from me? You ask again. Information, primarily, he replies. I have studied these artifacts for years, found references in ancient texts, fragments in monastery libraries. I know there were many such orbs created in a time before memory, but I have never seen one used successfully. His eyes gleam with intellectual hunger. You have. You touched its power and lived to tell of it. I want to know everything, how it felt, what you saw, how you directed its energy. It sounds like scholarly interest rather than personal ambition, but you remain cautious. And if I tell you, what then? Then I continue my research, he says simply. With better information, perhaps one day I find another orb. Perhaps not. He spreads his hands. I have no power to threaten you, Fletcher. No position, no authority. I'm a seeker of knowledge, nothing more. You consider his request. There's risk in sharing what you know, certainly, but there's also potential benefit in having an ally who understands the orb's nature, especially one with access to ancient texts and records you could never hope to read. I'll tell you some of it, you decide. Not all, not today, and in return, you'll share what you learn in your research. Brother Thomas nods eagerly. A fair exchange. You spend the next hour in quiet conversation at the back of the church, describing the orb's appearance, the sensation of touching it, the way it responded to deliberate intent. You omit certain details, exactly where it's hidden now, the full extent of the changes it made to your life, but provide enough to satisfy his scholarly curiosity. In return, he shares fascinating fragments of lore that the orbs were created during the fall of Atlantis, a tale you dismiss as fancy, that they respond differently to different bloodlines, more plausible given your experience, that their power waxes and wanes with certain celestial alignments, interesting if unprovable. One last question, he says, as your conversation winds down. The orb's light, does it still shine, or has it dimmed since you used its power? You hesitate, unsure how much to reveal. It's quieter, you say finally. Not extinguished, but resting. He nods as if this confirms something. As the texts suggest, the power ebbs after major workings but returns with time, especially at certain moments. Solstices, eclipses. He leans forward intently. There's an eclipse coming at Yuletide, the first in 7 years. If the orb's power follows the patterns described in the ancient accounts, it may awaken then. This is new information, both intriguing and slightly alarming. To what purpose? Brother Thomas shrugs. That depends on you, I would think, on what you ask of it, or perhaps on what it asks of you. He rises, brushing dust from his threadbare robes. I've taken enough of your time on a fair day, but I would speak with you again, after the eclipse, to compare observations. You stand as well. Where can I find you? If you're no longer at the abbey, I've taken a small room at the Bell Inn in the village, he says, working as a scribe and tutor to support myself. Not the life I expected, but he smiles faintly. We all adapt to changing circumstances, don't we? As you walk back to the fairground, your mind churns with this new information. The orb will awaken at the eclipse. Its power will return. But to what end? Will it simply be available for use again, or does it have its own agenda, its own purpose in bringing you to this time and place? The fair is winding down as afternoon fades toward evening. Merchants pack away unsold goods, villagers make their way home with new purchases and full bellies. You find Eliza and the children by the May tree in the centre of the green, where a few die-hard revellers still dance to the music of a piper and drummer. Where did you disappear to? Eliza asks as you join them. Agnes got her silk. She holds up a small piece of emerald green fabric that must have cost more than a month's food in your previous life. Church, you reply, not wanting to discuss Brother Thomas in front of the children. Paying respects. She reads the deeper meaning in your eyes and nods slightly. We'll talk later. The walk home takes you past fields you once worked as a tenant, now part of your expanded holdings. Farm workers, your employees now, not your peers, tip their caps as you pass. The stone house on the hill glows warm in the setting sun, smoke rising from its chimneys, windows gleaming with the golden light of candles and fire. Such a contrast to the humble farmhouse where you once lived, eternally cold, eternally dimly lit, where hunger was always one bad harvest away, where the monastery's shadow fell across every aspect of your existence. That night, after the children are asleep and the servants dismissed, you tell Eliza about Brother Thomas's visit, about the eclipse at Yuletide, about the orb's power potentially returning. "Do you believe him?" she asks, brushing her hair before the small mirror. "Another luxury of your new life." "I'm not sure," you admit. "Parts of his story ring true. Other parts," you shrug. "He was always clever, always had his own agenda, even when serving the abbot. And now? Now he's adrift. Cast out from the only world he's known." You think of the thin monk in his worn robes, reduced to teaching village children their letters for pennies. In some ways, I pity him. Eliza sets down her brush, turning to face you. Pity is dangerous when mixed with secrets as powerful as ours. If he truly knows about the orb, he does, you confirm. He saw it the night we left, saw us vanish. She pales slightly. Then he could still destroy everything we've built. One accusation of witchcraft. "I don't think that's his intention," you say, though you can't be entirely certain. He seems more scholar than zealot now, interested in understanding the orb, not condemning its use. "People change," she says pointedly, "as we well know." You can't argue with that. You've changed profoundly in the 4 months since arriving in this new life, growing more confident, more commanding, more comfortable with wealth and position. Who's to say Brother Thomas hasn't undergone his own transformation from the abbot's devoted servant to something else? "I'll be careful," you promise. "Limit what I tell him. Watch for any sign of betrayal." Eliza nods, seemingly satisfied for now, but as you lie in bed later, sleep eludes you. The knowledge that the orb's power may return at Yuletide, just 6 weeks away, fills your mind with both anticipation and dread. What might you do with a second chance to use its magic? Your current life is comfortable, secure, beyond anything you could have hoped for as a tenant farmer. Do you risk it by asking for more, or simply leave the orb dormant, its power untapped? And what of Brother Thomas? Can he be trusted with the knowledge you've shared, or will he prove dangerous to everything you've built? These questions follow you into dreams that night, dreams of golden light, of ancient power, of choices with consequences that ripple across centuries. You wake before dawn, an old habit from your farming days that persists despite your changed circumstances. The house is quiet, the servants not yet risen. Acting on impulse, you light a candle and make your way to the solar, to the loose floorboard where the orb lies hidden. The chest comes out easily, its ancient wood now familiar to your touch. You open it, half expecting to see the golden light already strengthening in anticipation of the coming eclipse. But the orb remains dark, or nearly so. Yet as you watch, holding your breath, you fancy you can see the faintest pulse deep within the crystal, a heartbeat so slow and faint it's barely perceptible, but undeniably there, waiting, you whisper to the silent room. But for what? The orb, of course, provides no answer, but as you carefully replace it in its hiding place, you can't shake the feeling that it heard you, that somewhere in its crystalline depths, something is stirring, preparing, gathering strength for whatever comes next. Days pass, turning into weeks. November brings rain and wind, stripping the last leaves from the trees and turning the roads to mud. Your wool business continues to prosper. Another good sale to merchants from London, a new arrangement with weavers in Bristol. The familiar rhythm of Tudor life goes on. Work, prayer, meals, sleep, each day much like the last. But beneath this ordinary surface, changes are brewing, not just in your household, but across England. Father Stephen brings news of further tensions between king and pope, of Thomas Cromwell's growing influence, of whispered plans to investigate the wealth of abbeys and priories throughout the realm. The monasteries are nervous, he tells you one evening, warming himself by your fire after a wet ride from the village. Merton Abbey, especially. The abbot has been summoned to London twice in recent weeks. What does it mean, you ask, though you already know from your future memories what's coming? The dissolution, the greatest transfer of land and property in English history. Change, the priest says simply, for better or worse depends on where one stands, I suppose. He gives you a meaningful look. Those once bound to monastery lands may find new opportunities, or new masters know better than the old. It's a reminder that even the dramatic changes brought by the orb exist within a larger historical context. Your rise from tenant to merchant isn't happening in isolation, but as part of sweeping transformations that will reshape England for centuries to come. 2 weeks before Christmas, before the eclipse Brother Thomas spoke of, you make a business journey to a nearby market town. It's a trip you've made many times in this new life, your recovered memories tell you, but it feels fresh and slightly strange as you ride your own horse along the muddy winter roads. At the town's small inn, you conclude a wool deal with a merchant from the continent, a Flemish man named Hendrik who pays good prices for your finest fleeces. Business done, you share a jug of wine as custom demands. England changes, Hendrik remarks, his accent thick but his meaning clear. Church power weakens, merchant power grows. He raises his cup to you. Good for men like us, yes? Perhaps, you allow cautiously. Tudor England is full of spies and informers. Even casual remarks about church or crown can be dangerous if reported to the wrong ears. In Antwerp, Hendrik continues, undeterred, we hear strange tales from English countryside. Objects of power found in ancient places. Roman magic. He watches you over the rim of his cup. Men who rise quickly in the world, as if helped by unseen hands. Your pulse quickens. First Sir William, then Brother Thomas, now this foreign merchant, all hinting at knowledge of the orb or things like it. Is your secret spreading beyond your control? Just tales, you say dismissively. People always invent fancies to explain others' success. Hendrik smiles thinly. Of course, just tales. He drains his cup and stands. But remember, Master Fletcher, in changing times, friends are valuable. Those who share certain experiences might do well to stand together. Before you can respond to this cryptic remark, he bows slightly and departs, leaving you to wonder if he was simply fishing for information or if he truly knows something about the orb and its power. The journey home the next day is cold and miserable, sleet stinging your face as your horse picks its way carefully along the rutted road. But your discomfort is overshadowed by growing unease about the conversations of recent weeks. Too many people seem to know or suspect something about the orb. Your secret, the foundation of your newfound prosperity, feels increasingly vulnerable. As you crest the final hill and see your stone house in the valley below, smoke rising steadily from its chimneys despite the foul weather, a strange sensation washes over you. For just a moment, superimposed on this familiar scene, you see the old farmhouse, the humble timber structure where you lived as a tenant farmer, where the orb first revealed itself to you. The vision is gone in a heartbeat, leaving you blinking in confusion. A trick of the mind, surely, a memory intruding on the present. Yet the brief overlap between past and present leaves you shaken, wondering if the boundaries between what was and what is are somehow thinning as the eclipse approaches. Home at last, warmed by fire and food and family, you try to push these worries aside. Whatever comes with the eclipse, you'll face it together, as you and Eliza have faced every challenge life has thrown at you. But that night, as winter wind howls around the eaves of your stone house, you dream of the orb again. In the dream, its golden light pulses stronger, more insistent, like a heart beating faster in anticipation or alarm. And deep within that light, you fancy you can see shapes moving, scenes playing out, glimpses of possibilities, of paths not taken, of choices yet to be made. You wake with the absolute certainty that something is coming, something that will test the new life you've built even more profoundly than the challenges you've already faced. The eclipse is 1 week away, the orb is awakening, and whatever happens next will determine not just your fate, but perhaps the fate of many others as well. The day of the eclipse dawns cold and clear, the winter sun rising into a sky of perfect pale blue. Frost glitters on bare branches and thatched roofs like scattered diamonds. Your breath hangs in the air as you stand in the doorway of your stone house, watching the village below come to life. Yuletide preparations are in full swing across the countryside. The 12 days of Christmas are the brightest spot in the dark Tudor winter, a time when even the poorest households feast as best they can, when work ceases and community bonds are renewed through shared celebration. Your own home is filled with the rich scents of spiced wine, baking bread and pine boughs brought in to decorate the hall. As a prosperous merchant, you're expected to show hospitality beyond what ordinary villagers might offer, a responsibility Eliza takes seriously, directing servants in the kitchen with the same quiet efficiency she once applied to your humble farmhouse. The eclipse begins at midday, Tom reminds you, appearing at your side with a steaming cup of mulled ale. Half the village plans to watch from the churchyard. You nod, accepting the cup gratefully. The eclipse, a darkening of the sun in midwinter, an event rare enough to inspire both wonder and fear in the Tudor mind. And according to Brother Thomas, the moment when the orb's power will return in full. Will you join them? Tom asks. Or no, you decide. I'll watch from here, from the counting room, where the orb is hidden, where you can see what happens when darkness briefly claims the winter sun. Tom studies your face, understanding more than you've explicitly told him. Shall I keep the household busy elsewhere? Make sure you're not disturbed. Please, you agree, grateful for his discretion. In this timeline, Tom knows you found something unusual in your old farm field, something that changed your fortunes, but he doesn't know the full truth, how completely the orb transformed your lives, jumping you across 3 years of time. Only Eliza shares that knowledge, that experience. Only she fully understands what might happen when the orb awakens again. As the morning progresses, you find yourself growing increasingly restless. Twice you check the orb, finding its glow slightly stronger each time, though still far from the brilliant radiance it once possessed. The pulse at its center beats a little faster, a little more insistently, as if counting down to something inevitable. You're like a cat before a thunderstorm, Eliza observes as you pace the hall, unable to settle to any task. Everyone can see something's troubling you. I can't help it, you admit. I feel like we're balanced on the edge of a cliff, like everything might change again today. She takes your hands, her touch calming as always. Whatever happens, we face it together, as we did before. You squeeze her fingers gratefully. I've been thinking about Brother Thomas, about what he said, that the orb will awaken during the eclipse. Yes, but more than that. You lower your voice, though the children are outside watching the cook prepare the Yule log and the servants are busy with their tasks. He suggested the orb might have its own purpose, that it might ask something of us rather than the other way around. Eliza frowns slightly. You think it's more than just a tool, that it has will of its own? I don't know. You shake your head, struggling to articulate feelings that are more intuition than reasoned thought. But think about it. Why was it buried in our field? Why did we find it when we did? Why did it send us to exactly this moment in time, when the monasteries are about to fall and everything in England is changing? Coincidence, perhaps, she suggests, though she doesn't sound convinced. Perhaps. Or perhaps the orb has been waiting. For the right moment, the right people. You meet her gaze directly. For us. Before she can respond, Agnes bursts in from outside, her cheeks red with cold and excitement. Papa riders coming, important ones, with fine horses. Your first thought is of Brother Thomas. Has he brought others to see the orb during the eclipse? But when you step outside, you see these are not monks or scholars, but men of wealth and position by their dress and bearing. 5 riders approaching your house, led by a figure you recognise with a shock of dismay, Sir William Hertford. Master Fletcher, he calls as they enter your yard. Unlike at the Michaelmas fair, he seems entirely sober today, his voice commanding rather than slurred. Forgive the unannounced visit. We come on matters of some urgency. You bow, mind racing. Who are these men with him? What urgency brings them to your door on the day of the eclipse? Sir William, you honour my humble home. You gesture toward the door. Please enter and warm yourselves. The day is cold. Inside, Eliza has already directed servants to bring wine and bread for the unexpected guests. Her face is composed, revealing nothing of the concern you know she must feel. The visitors remove their cloaks and gloves, revealing rich doublets and jewellery that mark them as men of substance. Sir William makes brief introductions, merchants from London, a scholar from Oxford, a gentleman whose name carries the weight of court connections. We've come about a matter of antiquities, Sir William says once formalities are observed and wine poured, specifically Roman artefacts rumoured to have been found in this region. Your pulse quickens, but you keep your expression neutral. Antiquities? I fear I know little of such things, being a simple wool merchant. Simple? One of the London merchants raises an eyebrow. Your rise has been remarkable, Master Fletcher, from tenant farmer to prosperous trader in less than 5 years. Most unusual. There it is again, that hint of suspicion, that suggestion that your success is somehow unnatural. You're about to offer your standard explanation of hard work and fortunate opportunities when there's another commotion at the door. Brother Thomas enters, snow dusting his threadbare cloak, his thin face flushed with cold and agitation. He stops short at the sight of the assembled company. I see I'm not the first to arrive, he says, his voice carefully controlled, though perhaps my purpose differs from these gentlemen's. Sir William's expression hardens. Brother Thomas, or just Thomas now, I understand. The abbot mentioned you'd been relieved of your duties. "A matter of theological disagreement," the former monk replies stiffly. The tension in the room is palpable. Eliza moves to your side, her presence both support and warning. The children, sensing the strange atmosphere, have retreated to the far corner of the hall, watching wide-eyed. "Perhaps," you suggest with forced calm, "someone might explain why my home has suddenly become a gathering place for such distinguished visitors, and on Yuletide, no less." The Oxford scholar steps forward, a thin man with intelligent eyes and ink-stained fingers. "We represent a society, Master Fletcher, scholars and gentlemen interested in unusual phenomena, historical artefacts with particular properties." "The orbs," Brother Thomas says bluntly. "They're speaking of the orbs, Fletcher, as you well know." A heavy silence falls. Outside, the light has begun to change as the eclipse commences, a subtle dimming, as if clouds were passing before the sun, though the sky remains clear. "I don't know what you're talking about," you insist, but your denial sounds hollow even to your own ears. "Don't you?" Sir William pulls something from his doublet, a small cloth-wrapped object that he places on your table and carefully unwraps. It's a fragment of crystal, identical to the one the abbot showed you all those months ago, part of a broken orb. "My grandfather found this," Sir William explains, "in 1451 on his estate in Kent. It changed his fortunes dramatically until it shattered. The family has been seeking another ever since." The Oxford scholar produces a small book bound in faded leather. Records exist of at least 7 such objects found across England over the centuries, always Roman in origin, always bringing dramatic change to those who possess them, and always, adds the court gentleman speaking for the first time, of great interest to the crown, especially in times of transition. The implications are clear. These men, powerful, connected, knowledgeable, want the orb. They've traced it to you, though how remains unclear, and they have the means to take it by force or legal authority if necessary. Brother Thomas moves to stand beside you, surprising you with this apparent alliance. "The orb chooses its keeper," he says firmly. "It came to Fletcher for a reason. Its power is not yours to claim." "Then let Master Fletcher speak for himself," Sir William suggests, turning to you. "Do you deny having found such an artifact? Do you deny that it transformed your fortunes through means beyond natural explanation?" All eyes turn to you. The room has darkened noticeably now as the eclipse progresses. Through the window you can see the strange filtered light casting unusual shadows across the winter landscape. In this moment of decision you feel a sudden warmth at your chest, the small pouch you've taken to wearing beneath your clothing containing a single coin, the Roman coin you found in the field that day, the first hint of the treasure buried there. It grows hot against your skin, as if responding to the proximity of the orb hidden above. And with that warmth comes clarity. These men, for all their power and knowledge, don't understand the orb's true nature. They see it as a tool, a means to wealth and influence, but you've experienced its deeper purpose, not just to enrich, but to place people where they need to be in the great turning of history's wheel. "I found something," you acknowledge finally, "in my field 3 years ago, something that changed my life." You look each man in the eye in turn, but it's not what you think, not a simple tool to be used for personal gain. The Oxford scholar leans forward eagerly. "Then what? What is its true nature?" Before you can answer, a strange light begins to fill the room, not from the windows or the fire, but from above, from the direction of your counting room where the orb lies hidden. Golden radiance streams through the cracks in the floorboards, growing stronger by the moment, Outside, the eclipse has reached its peak, the sun now a dark circle ringed with fire in the winter sky. But inside your hall, day seems to have dawned anew, cast in unearthly gold. "It's awakening," Brother Thomas whispers, his face transformed with wonder, just as the ancient texts foretold during the eclipse when darkness and light are balanced. The visitors stare in awe at the light pouring from above. Sir William is the first to recover, starting toward the stairs that lead to your counting room. "Wait," you command, your voice stronger than you intended. To your surprise, he stops, turning back with an expression of confusion, as if uncertain why he's obeying. "The orb is not yours to claim," you tell him, echoing Brother Thomas's words, but with new conviction. "It came to me for a purpose I'm only now beginning to understand." As if in response to your words, the golden light intensifies. The coin against your chest grows hotter still, almost painful, and then, like water breaking through a dam, understanding floods your mind. The orb didn't just give you wealth and status as a reward for finding it. It elevated you to this position at this specific moment in history because something is about to happen, something that requires someone of your particular background, someone who knows both poverty and prosperity, who understands both the monastery's power and the common people's struggles. "The dissolution is coming," you say, the words emerging from some deeper knowledge the orb seems to have planted within you. "The monasteries will fall, land that has belonged to the church for centuries will pass to new hands." The court gentleman looks startled. "How could you know this? The king's plans are not yet public." You ignore the question, continuing as if compelled. "When that happens, thousands of tenant farmers will face uncertainty. New landlords, new rents, new rules. Some will prosper under the change. Many will suffer." The golden light pulses in rhythm with your words, as if confirming each statement. "Unless," you continue, the orb's purpose becoming clearer with each moment, "someone who understands their plight is in position to help, someone who can influence how those lands are distributed, how those people are treated." You turn to Sir William, to the London merchants, to the court gentlemen, men with connections, with influence. "That's why the orb brought me here, not just to save my own family, but to remember where I came from, to speak for those who have no voice when the great changes come." Brother Thomas is nodding, his eyes bright with understanding. A witness, a bridge between worlds. "More than that," Eliza says, stepping forward to take your hand. "A guide for what comes next." The eclipse is beginning to wane outside, the sun emerging gradually from shadow, but the orb's light continues to fill the room, wrapping each person present in its golden glow. One by one, you see something change in the visitors' faces, hostility and greed giving way to thoughtfulness, to something like awe. Whatever power the orb possesses, it's affecting them too, opening their minds to possibilities beyond simple self-interest. "What would you have us do?" the Oxford scholar asks quietly. "Join me," you reply, the answer coming naturally, "not to possess the orb or use its power directly, but to form a fellowship of sorts, men and women of influence who remember the common good when great changes come, who ensure that power, when it changes hands, falls at least partly to those who will use it wisely." It's an audacious proposal. You, a former tenant farmer, asking these powerful men to follow your lead. Yet in this moment, with the orb's light binding you all together, it doesn't seem impossible. Sir William is the first to respond. "My family has sought another orb for generations," he says slowly. "But perhaps we misunderstood its purpose. Perhaps it's not meant to be possessed, but served." I've studied these artifacts for years, Brother Thomas adds, yet I never considered they might have agency of their own, a plan spanning centuries. The court gentleman looks most troubled, most resistant. The king would want this power for himself, he murmurs. And what would he do with it? You challenge gently. Add more wealth to his coffers? More land to his holdings? Or might it serve England better in many hands, guiding many decisions, large and small? He has no immediate answer. As the eclipse ends completely, the orb's light begins to fade, retreating back through the floorboards until the hall is lit only by natural daylight and the fire once more. But something has changed in the room, some connection forged between the people present that wasn't there before. The eclipse is over, the Oxford scholar observes, but I suspect our real work is just beginning. Over the next few hours, an extraordinary conversation unfolds in your hall. The visitors, no longer hostile or grasping, discuss with growing animation how they might use their various positions to influence the coming changes in England. Sir William speaks of fair treatment for tenants when monastery lands are sold. The London merchants consider how trade might be structured to benefit more than just the wealthy few. The court gentleman, still cautious but engaged, hints at ways royal policy might be subtly guided. Brother Thomas watches it all with the air of a man seeing prophecy fulfilled. The ancient texts spoke of this, he tells you quietly, as the others debate, of gatherings where the orb's light would open minds long closed. I never truly understood until now. As twilight approaches, the visitors prepare to depart, each with a new purpose, a new understanding. They will return, they promise, to share information, to coordinate efforts, to ensure that the great upheaval coming to England brings as much good as possible alongside the inevitable disruption. After they've gone, you climb the stairs to your counting room alone. The orb sits on your desk, removed from its hiding place during the eclipse's peak by some power you don't fully understand. Its light has dimmed to a gentle glow once more, but there's a quality to it that suggests contentment, completion. You touch it gently, feeling the now familiar warmth spread through your fingers. Was this your plan all along? You ask softly, to bring us here, to this moment, to these people? The orb pulses once, brightly, then settles back to its gentle glow. Answer enough. Eliza finds you there as darkness falls completely outside, the winter stars emerging in a sky of deepest blue. She carries a candle, though she hardly needs it, with the orb's light filling the small room. What happens now? She asks, coming to stand beside you at the desk. I'm not entirely sure, you admit, but I think we've done what the orb brought us here to do, started something that will continue long after today. She studies the glowing sphere. Will it stay with us or move on to someone else who needs its guidance? I don't know. You cover the orb with its cloth, watching the golden light filter through the fabric. But I think its greatest work through us is complete. And if it leaves, there's a hint of worry in her voice. Will we lose everything we've gained, return to what we were? You shake your head confidently. No, what we've built here is real now, solid. Our position, our wealth, our connections, they exist in the world, not just through the orb's magic. You take her hand. We've changed, Eliza, grown into these new roles. They're truly ours now, whether the orb stays or goes. She smiles, relief evident in her face. Good, because I've grown rather fond of having glass windows and enough food on the table. You laugh, the tension of the day finally breaking. As have I, as have I. That night, your household celebrates Yuletide with a feast far richer than anything you could have imagined in your previous life. The hall is warm and bright, filled with the sounds of music and laughter. Agnes and Edward play with gifts more elaborate than the simple wooden toys of their past. A miniature lute, a set of carved animals with real fur manes. Tom raises a toast to a prosperous year ahead. The servants sing carols as they serve the food. Even the cat seems content, purring by the fire with a belly full of scraps from the kitchen. Later, when the house has quieted and the children sleep, you and Eliza stand at the window of your chamber, looking out at the winter night. Snow has begun to fall, large flakes drifting lazily through the still air, gradually transforming the landscape into a blanket of pristine white. "Do you ever miss it?" Eliza asks softly. "The old life? The simplicity of it?" You consider the question honestly, sometimes. Not the cold or the hunger or the constant worry, but the directness of it, knowing exactly what needed doing each day, working with my hands in the soil. She nods. "I understand, though I can't say I miss washing clothes in the stream in winter." You both laugh quietly, remembering, for all that your lives have changed, your shared history remains, the foundation upon which everything else is built. Whatever comes next, you say, watching the snow transform your new world, we've been given a great gift. Not just prosperity, but purpose. A chance to help others as we've been helped. A good legacy to leave our children, Eliza agrees, leaning against your shoulder. As you stand there in comfortable silence, you think about the journey that brought you here, from desperate tenant farmer to prosperous merchant, from the monastery's control to a position of influence in your own right, from a man who could barely feed his family to one who helps shape the future of his country. All because of a glowing orb, buried for centuries in a turnip field, waiting for the right moment, the right person to bring its light into the world again. Outside, the snow continues to fall, covering both great houses and humble cottages with the same gentle blanket. In mansions and hovels alike, people sleep, dream, hope for better days ahead. And perhaps, because of what began in your counting room today, some of those hopes will be realized in ways no one could have predicted. The great wheel of history turns, relentless as the seasons. Kings rise and fall, institutions flourish and decay, but through it all, ordinary people live their lives, finding moments of joy and sorrow, struggle and triumph in equal measure. Your eyelids grow heavy as you watch the snow, the warmth of the room and the lateness of the hour drawing you towards sleep. As you and Eliza finally turn from the window and settle into your bed, you carry with you a profound sense of gratitude, not just for the material comfort surrounding you, but for the opportunity to make a difference in a world so often indifferent to the fate of common folk. The last thing you see before drifting off is a faint golden glow from the direction of your counting room. The orb's light, a gentle reminder of powers beyond ordinary understanding, of connections that span centuries, of possibilities yet to unfold in the ever-changing tapestry of human experience. As sleep claims you at last, your final conscious thought is that perhaps the greatest miracle of all is not what the orb gave you, but what it awakened within you, the capacity to grow, to adapt, to rise beyond the limitations of birth and circumstance. And somewhere in that warm, comforting darkness between waking and dreaming, between past and future, between one breath and the next, you find peace.